Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Jim Masters Show live. It's good to see all of you. We toast you and you and you and you from all around the world. Hope everybody is doing well today. If you didn't have a good day today, well, we are going to perk up your spirits with our entertainment lifestyle talk show series that we started 22 weeks ago, some 150 episodes or so. It's unbelievable. I can't believe the amount of time that we've spent together. It's really amazing. Night after night after night. We are live every single day, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. There are some times where we do the show a little bit earlier if the guest is overseas, like this Sunday. We've got an amazing musician, songwriter. He's really incredible. Jon Magnuson is going to be live and direct from Sweden. That's right, from Sweden, this Sunday, live at 1 p.m. Eastern, and that'll be 10 a.m. Pacific. So a special show time this Sunday live, and that's going to be exclusively on YouTube. Again, he's really popular in Scandinavia and in Europe, and he and his band, it's going to be really, really cool. He's a phenomenal singer, songwriter, and musician, and he's all excited. He's been spreading the word all throughout Europe, and we're excited that he's going to be joining us live exclusively on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel and subscribe and click the notification bell so you keep abreast of all the cool updates we have on that channel. That's the home base for all the episodes of the Jim Masters Show live. So that episode at 1 p.m. Eastern, a very special time this Sunday, exclusively on YouTube, is going to be happening on the YouTube channel. And our very special guest is, again, Jon Magnuson. We're really excited to have him here live and direct from Sweden. It's going to be really, really cool. It's going to be, I think, around 7 p.m. his time, 6 p.m. for folks in like Ireland and Scotland and England, around 7 p.m., I believe, in the Netherlands and Switzerland and Austria, Germany. Those areas. It's Central Eastern Time, Eastern European Time. Actually, Central European Time is what it actually is, Central European Time. It'll be 7 p.m. Central European Time. It'll be 6 p. Yeah, 6 p.m. 6 p.m. for Western European Time, which is basically the United Kingdom and Ireland. And then on the other side of the pond here, in the United States, here in the Northeast, Eastern Time, it'll be 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific. But you can also see the re-air on YouTube as well. How's everybody doing? You having a good day? Because if you're not, we are here to really perk things up for you. This is an entertainment lifestyle talk show series. I am your host, Jim Masters. Light, levity, and love, or as we call it, levity, abounds every single day on this show. Every single day is something unique, different, special, inspiring conversations, behind the scenes stories, great entertainment from amazing guests, literally all around the world. Who do incredible things, and we cover really the gamut as far as guests. It's not all one type of genre of guest. And again, we've taken you on location. We've done food segments. We've done comedy. I do this work professionally. If you're just joining us for the first time, tasting the waters here. I'm a professional TV and radio personality and host and journalist, actor, writer, producer, stage MC, voiceover artist. Done this kind of work here in the United States and also some international work as well for a good long time. And we launched this fun show 22 weeks ago, every single night, so some 150 episodes or so. And it's good to have you with us. Our cast of characters are here. I know you guys love the cast of characters. We will show you those a little bit later. I'm talking about George Burns and Jeannie and Gilligan and Jimmy and Silver. They're all here. The big panda that we got given for the birthday, Lin, which was a cool gift, is sitting over there. We'll have Lin with us as well. Let's check out some of the comments already from our viewers around the world. We have an international audience here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Mary Bishop is here, and Mary says, welcome, Jim, Jon, and all my lovely friends. Good to be here for another fabulous show you're watching on YouTube at Jim Masters TV. Fantastic. Welcome to the show, Mary. And in Holland, in Netherlands, beautiful Amsterdam, we've got Willie here, Willie Jancy. Hello. Here we are again. Greetings to all lovities. Have a nice show with Jim. Thank you. You're watching on YouTube. Always great to have you here, Willie. Hope you're having a good day. Christine is here. Christine, I'm glad you're here. I hope everything is well. Hope you had a good day today and everything turned out positive and good for you today. I know you had a very important appointment today, so hopefully that turned out in your favor. Good evening, Jim and lovely friends. We welcome Hypnotist, Illusionist, JON WAYES to the show tonight. Lovely Hall will be very entertaining and magical tonight. Fun times ahead. Absolutely. Good to see you in North Carolina, Christine. Ralph Lampkin Jr. in Indiana watching. Hello, John and Jim. Try not to make things disappear. We will try. We will try not to. We may even add a few things. Katie 26, goalie girl. That's a cool shot. I could see that shot of you as a goalie. Hello, good to see you watching on YouTube. Welcome to the show. Emily is here, ready for a fun show. Welcome, Emily, watching on the YouTube channel. If you can, subscribe to the channel. We've got cool shows every single night with amazing guests, like our guest tonight. Incredible New Age hypnotist and illusionist JON WAYES is here. He's all excited to be here, and we're excited to have him here too. Everybody's saying hi to everybody. Hi, how are you doing? We are doing fantastic, and you guys are talking to each other as well. I love this. I'm doing well. You? Good to see everybody. I like this cross conversation that's happening. That's awesome. Good to see everybody. Good evening, Jim, our lovely family from Cleveland, Ohio. Dreamy Butterfly 2. What a cool name. All saying hello to each other. This is cool. Kendall and Katie, and this is awesome. This will be a good show. Absolutely. Good to see you. Thank you very much. And Carla from Brazil, from South America. She's here often, and we love having her here. Good to see you, Carla. Hope you're having a good day there in Brazil. Wichita, Kansas. Good evening, Jim, and all our lovedies on the Jim Masters Show Live. Marilyn, tuning in from Wichita, Kansas. Love having you there. Smiles coming in from the Netherlands and Europe with Willie, who has her mask on. Good girl there. And Wozniak. Hi, Jim and everyone. Looking forward to the excitement of this evening. Absolutely. You got it. Good to see you too, Ann. Welcome. Christopher Joseph in Ohio. Hello, Jim Masters and all lovedies. Good to see you as well. And watching on YouTube at the Jim Masters TV channel. Give it a subscribe. We would love that. Real Hypnotic D. What a cool name. Real Hypnotic D. And look at the eye, too, in the profile. Watching on YouTube, good to see you. Welcome, Real Hypnotic D. And where are you from? Some of the new folks, Katie and all the rest, where are you guys from? What states and what locations are you guys from? I'd love to know where you're watching from tonight. In this episode and all our episodes will be available on our YouTube channel as well. If you want to share it, the links, if you want to see it again, feel free to do that. Merlin is here watching from Canada. Hi, Willie, watching Dr. Paul. His brother is visiting from the Netherlands. Dr. Paul, I wonder who that is. That's intriguing. Hi, Drew. Merlin. Hi, Jim and all the lovedies. Fantastic. Good to see you as well in Innerkip, Ontario, Canada. Sherry, show and line. Good evening, Jim, and all the rest of the lovedies. Good to see you as well, Sherry. Crystal is in Connecticut. Hi, Jim, and everyone. Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Looking forward to an exciting show with amazing entertainment, great conversation, and lovedy. And you are in Connecticut. Nice to see you there in the Constitution State. And from South Africa, wonderful Juanita, who's here like every single day. We're loving this. Hello, Jim and everyone. Very excited for the show. We're very excited to have you here as well. Live and direct from South Africa. That's fantastic, Juanita. Welcome once again to our show. Everybody's saying cheers. Everybody's saying hello. I love it. And nice. Good stuff. Hi, Jim. Hope you have a good day. You too as well. Kathleen in New York City. We love having you here. And good evening, lovedies from Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, Canada. Nice, Karen Campbell Green. And you had asked if I had interviewed Ryan Kelly, Neil Byrne, and Damien McGinty, the Celtic Thunder guys. Absolutely. Interviewed all of them, have known them for years, interviewed them on public television. But we also interviewed them on this show, so you can see those extended interviews at Jim Masters TV on YouTube. Also, Colin Keegan has been interviewed as well. And I know you've asked about Keith Harkin, and we'd love to welcome him as well. Emmett Cahill, same thing. We've put the word out. And you're having a good day. Dreamy Butterfly 2. That's perfect. Beautiful day in Ohio, 68 degrees, very nice. And really, really cool. Everybody saying hello to everybody. Nice. We are a very unique and special Loverty family. Yeah, we really, really are. And from England, from the United Kingdom, Avril Britton is here from Hampshire in United Kingdom. Awesome. Good to have you here once again, Avril. We love when you tune in to the Jim Masters Show live. Hi, Jim. Nice to see you as well. Sobion Eddie Young. Hi, Jim. Hi, Karen Campbell Green. Hope your day's better. Nice to see all of you. You're super pumped. Real Hypnotic D is super pumped. This is cool. We're a very interactive show. You guys are saying where you're watching from. So Emily's watching from Delaware, USA. Katie's in Toronto, Canada. Dreamy Butterfly 2 is in North Carolina. Real Hypnotic D is in Michigan. Tracy Groom. Welcome, Tracy, on the YouTube channel. Hope you guys on YouTube will subscribe to the channel. We would love that. You're in Middletown, New York. Ralph says, fantastic new lovities. Absolutely. We always welcome new lovities to the show. The world can use a lot more lovity right about now, can it? Francis is here. Hello, everyone. Are we all supposed to get hypnotized tonight on this show? Just our voices will do that for you. We will see what happens tonight. We will see what happens. Stay tuned. Vet in Michigan on TV. Good stuff, good stuff. Claudia is watching from Missouri. Everything is going well here. Hope things are going well for you too. So we're going to get ready to welcome our very special guest. You're very welcome. Allison Tillman saying thanks for having the guest on the show. You're in Florida. Good stuff, good stuff. All right, so everybody's doing well. The cast characters are here. We'll show them later. We've done our toast. Everybody's looking good from all around the world. Get ready to get entertained here on the Jim Master Show Live. Still time for you to share the links with your family and friends. Let them know that we are here live right now. And again, you can see we're actually live right now on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, and Twitch. So we've got a whole group of folks here. Christine Clifton's welcome all new lovities. Absolutely. Karen says, thanks. Glad that your day is better. Good stuff. And Sherry says, I've never told you where I'm from. I am Maria in Maria Stein, Ohio. Fantastic. Love it. And Bernadette says, hello, Jim Lovities, and welcome to John. We're going to welcome him right now on the show. He's a really cool guy, and he's very, very talented. If you've seen his work, or you've heard about him, or maybe knowing that he was coming on the show, perhaps you were going to be Googling and checking things around to see more about him. I love this picture. We use this in the promotions because, again, if you look closely, you think you just see, the jacket, the hat, and the fingers, right? You see his face there? It's really cool. John WAYES' introduction is one that really befits his personality. With his roots in magic, he became a Vegas-trained hypnotist by 19, and he hypnotized producers behind the scenes of America's Got Talent on YouTube with over 1 million views on the channel. John WAYES has become known as the martial arts hypnotist that can get anyone to read multiple foreign languages with a snap of his fingers. If you guys have any questions or you want to participate at all, you just post it on the YouTube channel or post it on Twitch or post it on Facebook, wherever you're watching from. We can see all the comments and questions and everything else. The hashtag YouTube Hypnotist has hypnotized teenagers and corporate professionals alike, literally from all around, as far as Venice Beach, California, to Niagara Falls, to New York, and so much more. And again, he's very talented. He loves what he does, and he has a true gift. So we're going to welcome New Age hypnotist and illusionist John WAYES to the show exclusively right now. Hey, John, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here, my friend.
Mic on. There we go. Hi, I'm adulting.
Mic on. No, I'm Jim. You're John. Where's Mike? That's
Sleep.
funny. Yeah. Most people, they sometimes, we've had some performers performing live, and then they mute their background sound, and then they start talking after they sing the song, and they're going, and we're like, oh, and I'm trying to communicate. I'm going like this, and I'm going like, like this means no, and they have their mute button on because there's all this different technology today is really something else, huh? With all these little gadgets and buttons and everything that you have to make sure, especially when we're doing this kind of thing live, got to make sure everything's perfectly in place, right?
Yeah, I've been doing virtual now. I mean, most people, it's funny because like I told you beforehand, quarantine made virtual very popular, but I've been doing virtual hypnotherapy and virtual comedy hypnosis and magic for literally years. But I just started more so adamantly back in March when quarantine started. And I remember every time I did a session, I'd get on and be like, hold on. And people would just look at me through the screen. I go, after 5 years of doing this, tap, 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 you'd think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Hey, that's it. You're getting welcomes from all over, from South Africa and
Oh,
Juanita
cool.
and Kathleen in New York City, Crystal in Connecticut as well. You got Kathy Short welcoming you. She loves that photo where you see your face through the fingers.
Well,
That
thank
really
you.
is a really cool shot. Mary Bishop
I
welcomes
stole the
you.
idea from Facebook, like
Did you
a
really?
like a good
Somebody,
artist. I
Some,
stole it.
or like Milton Berle used to do with jokes. Absolutely. Hi, John. Welcome. And Christopher says, cool T-shirt, hypnotist. That's what it
Oh,
says, right? Hypnotist there
yeah,
on the
yeah,
shirt.
it does. It confused my videographer because they didn't get the O right. This wasn't the original design for the O, so everyone thought it was a donut,
Oh, really?
and it was supposed to be just like a hyper
Yeah.
like thing into the shirt or whatever. And I was
Well, it
like,
looks
Shh,
cool.
whatever, it's a donut.
Yeah, it looks absolutely looks cool. Willie welcomes you from the Netherlands, from Holland, Amsterdam. Welcome, John. John, to the best show in the world. Wow, the best show in the world. I'll take that. Could I print that out and put that on the highway on billboards somewhere? That would be really,
Marilyn,
really cool.
Marilyn just commented from Facebook something that I've been hearing since I actually started hypnosis 10 years ago, which was, you look like a child.
Is that what she said that you look? Hopefully, when you're 80, she'll still tell you that.
I'm hoping by the time I'm 40, I'll look the age I am now.
It'll all catch up once, yeah, that all catches up quick. Welcome, John. We're so happy you're here in Lovety Hall today. Caddy 26, Goalie Girl says welcome.
Katie, what's up,
Yeah,
Katie? Real Hypnotic D, Emily, my YouTube and social media fam.
fantastic. And welcome, John. You're very
Dreamy
interesting.
Butterfly too. I'm sorry, I forgot. My bad.
Yeah, yeah, as you see right there, right? The eye
Yep.
of the hypnotic donuts. You look good. Welcome to the show. So you've passed
Thank
their
you.
test. Karen says, welcome, John. Let's see. Christine says, oh, welcome to Lovety Holt. You're now a Lovety. Love the shirt. See, I told you that already.
Thank you.
That you would be, yeah. Boy, you look like a child.
Yeah.
Johnny Boy. That's Real Hypnotic D.
Drew, stop. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's it. Well, you could probably make him stop, right?
Well, he's my student. He knows most of what I do, so I'd have to come up with something new for him.
Something really special. So let's talk about this. Oh, that's funny. It's okay, John. Dreamy Butterfly, too. All these great welcomes, and we thank everybody, for tuning in from all around the world. This is really fascinating. And you and I had a great conversation before we went live on the air, talking a bit about how you first got introduced to illusion, to hypnotism, and all of this. And I said that probably more than likely it was like a gift. These are talents that you had early on that maybe needed to be brought out or tapped into. And you had opportunities where that actually happened. Tell us about, the first entree into understanding that you had these abilities.
So I have the very cliche backstory of I got a magic kit when I was about 8 one Christmas, and I grew up very, very socially distanced in general. I was very extraordinarily introverted to the point where my mom was joking the other month that when I was a kid, the only time she saw me was when she came into my room to tell me it was breakfast time or lunchtime or dinner. I was just always in my room, and I remember this is something I actually haven't talked about publicly a lot. I opened a book one day, and it was The Wizard of Oz, and it was either the front or the back cover, the inside of it. And I looked at the big green sparkling city, and I remember thinking, "That's amazing. I want to be, and for some reason in my mind that equaled success. Like if I can get into a big city, if I can be known by a lot of people. So I had two goals as a kid: entertain, get known by a lot of people, and be popular, and make everyone in the world my friend. And then, long story short, on the friend part, I grew up and I realized I was introverted, and people, I'm just too introverted. But as far as the kind of famous thing goes, I still don't consider, and I don't like talking about that just because I
Yeah.
think it's kind of like a shallow goal type thing now.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
Yeah.
I've gotten to that point.
Right. Right.
But that was around the same time I got the magic kit, and I remember looking at the magic kit and thinking, no, like one of the things didn't sound proper. It was like make 4 coins pass through your hand. I'm like, that makes no sense. That's not possible. And when I learned how to do it, I started doing it, and then I was just doing it on and off for years. And when I saw David Blaine on TV when I was in grade school or middle
Yeah.
school, I started going around and doing street magic for everyone in my subdivision. And then my mom's coworker at the prosecutor's office found out that I did magic and wanted to hire me for a child's party. And basically, growing up, I was either doing magic or I thought I was Danny Zuko from Greece, and I was
Yeah.
singing Grease Lightning in my front yard. And then around the same time I got the magic kit, I thought I was Neo from the Matrix for like 10 years. And then when someone actually hired me to do a magic show, I was like, well, it's not Danny Zuko or Neo, but I can do this. And I did it. And I just remember thinking, people are paying me to have fun. Like they're literally paying me to do in their house what I do in my room because I'm bored and antisocial. And that's when I realized, oh, this could be a real job. And so I started doing magic. And then one year, about a year after the paid gig, about a year or two after the paid gig, I got this thing off a magic website. I thought it was magic. It was called a Mind Eraser by Joe Brogy and Jay Noblezada, who is Dave Blaine's consultant. And it was basically, here's how you talk to people. And I was like,
Right.
this is a really weird magic trick teaching me how to talk. Here's how you talk to people in certain words using certain phrases in this certain order, and you can make them forget their name, their age. I was like, this is a really weird magic trick. And I did it on my friend, and he immediately forgot the card he was holding. And I was like, no. And then he forgot his name. I was like, what? And I posted it on YouTube, and Jay Noblezada, who's the co-creator of it, found it and invited me out when I was only a freshman in college. I had just gotten college, and he invited me out to a 3-day training. They said they were putting a test group together, and I was one of the youngest in about 60 people. And so I guess kind of taking theater in college, having been part of productions in high school, and then, wanting to be from Greece or from the Matrix and then doing magic, it all kind of came together. And I realized hypnosis was really cool because it was strictly about the mind. Unlike magic, I don't have to carry around props or anything.
Right.
And I still get to do the Danny Zugo or Neo thing because I still get to become someone. That's kind of where John Wayes initially manifested from, is I get to be kind of the cool kid without ever at that time thinking I was the cool kid. I was
Right.
just like the
Right.
nerdy dude with magic that ended up going to do some mind control stuff. And honestly, the hypnosis is what blew up the YouTube channel and gained me the most popularity. And I was like, oh, well, guess we're going with this now.
And I'm sure it's helped you also with, being introverted. It's brought you out more because you have to entertain, you have to perform, you have to do the work, and you're oftentimes surrounded by a lot of people who all eyes are on you to see what it is you're doing. You think it's helped you to be able to be more expressive and maybe a little bit more extroverted, at least when the light is on you and you're out there doing your thing?
Ironically, when I did my first high paying hypnosis show, it was for a high school after prom in Pella, Iowa. And I was so anxious, I literally turned over in the bed in the hotel room that they rented out for me the next morning after the performance. And this is how long the anxiety took to build up. I was so anxious. I did the show. They ended up giving me raving reviews and sent my agent 5 stars and a great review. I turned over the next morning and immediately threw up. I was so anxious. And for the first 2 or 3 years I performed, I could not eat before a show because I would get sick. And here's the worst part. That was my first show. I ate hot wings and Mountain Dew.
What a combination. That's
And
like doing that and going on a roller coaster. Uh-uh.
it was, yeah, no, it was bad. And ironically, performing became my therapy. I now demand food before my show. I'm like, I'm hangry. I need food. I've been traveling. But I actually feel, ironically, now most at home when I'm on a stage in front of a large group of people compared to when I first started. That used to intimidate me because I was like, oh, this is a lot of people. What if some people aren't entertained? And now my perception has changed based on experience, which is the more people there are, the more people that are going to want to enjoy the power of their own creative mind, and the more opportunity I have to guide them as the hypnotist to have that experience. So I'd say in the past 10 years, it's helped me understand social dynamics, definitely social engineering. I'm less anxious now to just approach a group of people, especially obviously if I'm hired, it's much easier to go in and look for the organizer of my event. But even in general situations, it's become a lot much easier for me to understand how to kind of socially engineer my way into and through situations compared to when I was a teenager. So I think in that aspect is probably the best therapy I've had.
So were you more concerned or worried about how you pleasing people and having everything be perfect and excellent and just right? Or were you more nervous about what people's reactions to you would be? Like they would might reject you or not like it or whatever it may be.
I think in high school it was definitely the rejection. I wasn't popular by any means. I was literally a nerd. I had like three nicknames that were all just like bullying nicknames in high school. It wasn't until I did an effect by Jay Noblezado that David Blaine did, where I shook my foot back and forth and my shoelaces visually tied themselves, that a football player freaked out, and then I became the not so weird and kind of interesting kid.
Yeah.
And then as I got into performing for money in my late teens, early 20s, I was very anxious about, I hope I don't get this magic trick wrong, or, I hope people respond to this hypnotic suggestion. And now, now I don't really have any of that. I'm just like, I'm going to go in. Like, I've realized that a lot of people, especially when it comes to hypnosis, they don't understand hypnosis, like the science and psychology behind it. So I understand that no matter what I do, they're going to be impressed. I could do the most basic thing, which sounds crazy to the average person. Like I can cause someone to seemingly forget their name or age within a few minutes. And to the average person, that's a crazy feat of psychology. But to me, it's a very cliche and classic form of hypnotic phenomena. So I think back then it was like, oh, I hope I get this right. I hope people accept me. And now it's just like, I'm just going to go for it. And we're going to see how people react.
What was the big break you think so far in doing all this? The opportunity where that door was really opened and things just really started blossoming from there for you, if you were to look at it.
I still don't feel, which is interesting. I still don't feel like I've had one particular big break yet.
You're the fifth person in the last week and a half that I've had on this show, and some people have been doing things for like 50 years, and they're like, I'm still waiting for that big break.
It's weird because like it's so weird because I was thinking about this earlier today in consideration for the show, and I've completed so much my bucket list, but I still don't feel like there's that big Hollywood magical break. And that's what I realized in my mid-20s is Hollywood has Hollywoodized a lot of things.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
example, hypnosis. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, it's mind control. It's weird. It's fake." And I'm just like,
right.
I have to deal with that every week. But for me, I mean, I used to think, oh well, if I perform in a three-tier classic historic theater, I'll have made it. And I did that several years ago, and it was one of the most fun college shows I've done. But I didn't feel like that really exploded anything, but I didn't really care because I just enjoyed the experience. And then at one point I was like, if I could just perform on like a big boat, and then I got hired 2 years in a row to perform on a yacht in Chicago, and it was awesome, but I didn't feel like it did anything. Again, I didn't care because I just liked the experience. And then I think the same year I did my first yacht show, I hypnotized producer Rodney Spencer behind the scenes of America's Got Talent um, during the beginning tour of their audition process, and I was just waiting in the blue room for like 9 hours, which no one ever says, by the way, guys. If anyone ever wants to audition, you're going to be waiting there for like all day. So just like
Mm-hmm.
block out the entire day.
There you go.
And I went there, and as I was getting ready to go to my audition, some guy walks up to me and goes, "Hey, are you really a hypnotist?" Because I had the jacket on that you see there, it said John WAYES Hypnotist on the front, and then it says, let me hypnotize you on the back. And I said, yeah. He's like, can you hypnotize me for the news? And I was like, give me 60 seconds. He's like, no way. And so I did it, and it went well. And I thought that was cool. And that admittedly got a lot of traction on the YouTube.
Yeah.
But again, even though that was one of my bucket list goals, it didn't feel like, oh, I'm like world famous now. And honestly, after collaborating at doing another bucket list goal, which was a huge collaboration, I collaborated with my friend, Only JS from TikTok and YouTube, who's huge now. And we did an interactive YouTube episode where I hypnotized her, and then the viewer gets to decide for the entire episode what I'm going to do. And there's like a bunch of different branches out of possibilities that if you can make me hypnotize her, forget her name, or hypnotize me to make her call a friend, or this or that. And that blew up. And I think in retrospect, I'm not sure if I want a big break because I'm scared, because the day that she promoted that, I went to my mom's house, and every few seconds people were blowing up the comment section, and I literally threw my phone on the dining room table. I was like, Mom, I can't do this. This is too like
overwhelming, like, right?
I'm not used to this attention. And later on I texted Jason, I was like, how do you do this? She goes, I turn off my notifications.
Right. Because you heard ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I know. Especially when you're trying to sleep at night in bed, turn those notifications off or you'll never go to sleep.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. And you're like, who's up at 4 a.m. dinging me? Which is funny. We've got we actually have a couple of really nice clips here too. We've got some great photos, but this one is stage hypnosis. I want to take a look at that one, and we'll share that with our audience, and then maybe we can come back and we can chat about what we've seen. Sound good?
Sweet, let's do it.
All right, here we go.
A, D, G, A, N, G. A, D, G, A, N, G. Give me a thumbs up when you got it. She was really deep earlier since the beginning, so we're going to use her. Person I'm touching now, you're going to sit straight up on the count of 3, and you're going to read the word in front of you. 1, 2, 3.
Access.
Is that right? Sweet. Thank you so much. What's your name again?
Mar.
Mar, very good job. Just look at my hand. Look at my hand, look at my hand, look at my hand.
That is cool. So explain to the audience what was happening, what the scenario was there, because everybody seemed to be blown away by it.
So years ago, I was asked by a high school that had hired me beforehand to come back and do another show. And up until that point, I was never asked to do 2 shows at one school before. So my agent's assistant reached out to me. I was like, hey, can you make up a new show? And that's actually where the title New Age Hypnotist came from, because I spent about a month brainstorming. And as I teach my students, I go, research what everyone's doing, think of ideas, and then research other people in the field to see if they're doing those ideas. And one of the classics of stage hypnosis is to make one person talk like an alien, which is usually just gibberish, and then another person to translate the alien, which is just hilarious because no one knows. It's all going to be this person's creativity and creative mind that's going to dictate what the alien translation is. And I was like, well, what would be better to like do more gibberish, and then it dawned on me, I was like, what if we can make someone speak a foreign language? And then I found a way to get foreign languages printed on a piece of paper, and it's legitimately the foreign language. And I would think up to date we've done Spanish, French, Danish, German, Italian, Greek, and Filipino. And we would print the different languages and like one word per language on these cards. And under hypnosis, I'm like, hey, when I snap my fingers, you're going to wake up, and it doesn't matter what language this is. When you see the language, you're going to immediately say what the English translation of this is without thinking about it. And so I would put it in front of them, whatever the language was, and I was like, 1, 2, 3. And just like she did, they would just wake up, they would look at it, and they would immediately read the word in an English translation. And that's why everyone freaked out. And the thing is, funny about that clip specifically, that university in California booked me specifically because they didn't think I could do it. And they're like, okay, well, we've seen this. And I like, it's cool, but I don't think
Right.
you can really make just anyone speak any language you put in front of them. So what the organizer later on admitted after the show was, he said, I booked you just to see you pull that one thing off. And I had 3 of the students read 3 different foreign languages, and they all said it.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I have, why the people are freaking out is because before I have them read the word out loud, I have the people in the audience translate whatever the word is, and that's why you hear me spell it out, because at least 2 or 3 people in every show are translating the word on Google Translate. And then I just say, tell me what language it is, give me a thumbs up when you have it translated, but don't say it out loud because that might be cheating. And I say, now to the person under hypnosis, 1, 2, 3, eyes on wide awake, what do you think this is? And then they say it, and then their reaction comes from the fact that that's what the translation in the audience is.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Caddy says, that's sick.
It's definitely it's one of the few things, it's probably one of 2 or 3 things I've become most known for in the field of comedy hypnosis in the past 5 years.
I want to show folks there is a promo reel too that shows your work as well, and we want to bring that up. And that's a cool one. We have quite a few different things here, but we'll share that. Here it comes.
Great job. Would highly recommend hiring.
Hey, you're pretty good, you know. Help me with a lot of winning numbers of the lottery today.
I'll tell you what. For $10,000, I'll tell you.
Contact Ralph today to join the 2020 tour.
That is so funny. That's amazing.
Side note, I did not get paid $10,000.
You didn't, huh? It's everybody must ask you for the winning lottery numbers and if it's going to be a boy or a girl.
Oh, yeah.
How long am I going to live? And
Not that one so much.
I bet they're asking about the election.
I avoid politics very strategically.
Smart man, smart man, smart man, especially this year. I would, absolutely, absolutely. That was really cool. So that was like a promo and great ad as well. Wow.
Yeah, that's the magic and illusionist thing, because ever since I started doing hypnosis, and that's what blew up my channel and my main career. It's funny when people ask me to do magic, sometimes they find me online. They're like, well, we want you to do magic, but we see a lot of this hypnosis stuff and we don't want you to hypnotize us. I'm like,
yeah,
there's literally an entire section of my website just dedicated to magic. So I can do just magic.
So do you call yourself also a magician? I mean, you're an illusionist, new age hypnotist. Do you still say I'm a magician as well?
I usually just say illusionist just because I think
it encompasses that.
It encompasses most things that are magic or mentalism related in one word. But also, it was just a weird personal thing for me in my 20s as I was trying to go professional with hypnosis. I noticed that if I said I was a magician or did magic, that people were bombarding me with requests to do kid parties, and I was getting to a point in my career and my life and my age and maturity where I'm sure your little Johnny is an angel, but I don't want to entertain him. And there's nothing against, your little Johnny. Is just, I was ready. I just felt, and that was one of the first times in my life that I actually reached out to my manager and was like, hey, after he booked me like a Jewish kid party, and the parents ended up letting me finish with hypnosis because the kids actually Googled me before I did the show. So they actually knew about the hypnosis. So I did the magic show, but then they asked me to do the hypnosis. And I told my manager, I was like, honestly, I just feel pulled to go do more adult things now.
Yeah.
And I think that
the time has come. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a few years ago. So usually I just stick with the title illusionist, and I usually end up getting more high school or university or corporate based events now.
Here's another one. Speaking, you mentioned, let's see. This one here is, this is Halloween Mentalism snippet. This looks like a cool one. Do you want to intro that a little bit?
Yeah, so I still like doing magic, obviously, and mentalism. Yeah. And one of the greatest feats that you can do with mentalism is predict the future and how accurate can you be. And this family, booked me for quite a bit of money. And I was like, well, if you're going to book me for that, I should give you a darn good show. And I like ending these types of shows with predicting or as close to the headline of their local newspaper as possible with potential sub headlines. So basically the whole idea is I'm going to write this prediction and mail it to them about a few days or a week before the show. And that's going to contain, for the day of the show, the prediction for the newspaper headline that day for their show.
That's cool. That's cool. Let's take a look at that right now. The Halloween Mentalism snippet coming up right now here on the Jim Masters Show Live. And here we go.
If I could psychically connect with someone, what if, or better yet, what if I could tell the future? So here's the thing. Mia.
Yes.
I want to take a time out and ask you, because I feel kind of guilty. Am I actually pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
I would have said something.
Okay. Just want to make sure. In Indiana, they're very persnickety. If it were Maya,
Yeah.
she would have flipped. All right. You have a copy of the paper of today's paper, correct?
Yes.
All right. I want you to get it, but don't show it to me.
Okay.
I'm going to explain this to everyone else. About a week ago, I mailed her something.
Wow.
Now, do you remember this? Obviously, you gave it to me earlier.
Yes. The envelopes.
I mailed her a prediction for today's paper. Because there's something that you guys don't know that I've not spoken about this entire show that's also on this paper that even Mia and her family don't know about. So everyone get really quiet. Because I did this specifically for TikTok. Now, I want you to come over here, give me the paper. Now? Now, I'm going to go like this so I can't really see it. Don't say anything out loud, because again...
There's a sticker they put on.
Oh, okay. Alright. Now I want you to come right here and read this out loud now.
On Saturday, October 26, 2019, the Daily Herald will have a headline discussing car fans. There will also be an article referring to a type of
Oh, okay. Oh, I got
partial
it.
win. Let's say
Partial,
partial win.
partial win.
Is that what that says?
Partial win.
Partial win football. Lastly, someone will be surprised to learn, despite shuffling and randomness, they're waiting for John to reveal they have been thinking of the Seven of Hearts.
It was diamonds, wasn't it?
What?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Let me see the paper.
Yeah, it says car fans there, and then it's sort of a win-win, which
It
is
was the Seven of
a
Diamonds.
partial.
Yeah.
He lost me on the Daily Herald.
It was the Seven of Diamonds.
I like the guy in the back that says, "Let me see the paper." Did I believe what I just saw? Did that actually just happen? The reactions too with the kids, it's terrific.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Thankfully, enough of them were old enough to kind of comprehend and really appreciate the whole ideology behind the finale and everything.
Exactly.
I had to work them up, though. I had to do some of the classic, here's a card, and I'm going to do a psychic-like thing, and I did a psychic thing between two kids to kind of freak them out, and I found out if you can freak kids out enough, but not too much, that makes them kind of quiet, and then you have enough quiet space to do the finale so everyone can hear, because otherwise they're really hyper.
That is funny. We've got another one here too, John, the FaceTime hypnosis snippet. Tell us about that one.
So I started making yet another new type of hypnosis show, and I wanted to start incorporating more technology into it, because a lot of hypnotists will do what they want to do. They say, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that, and then they only focus on the volunteers.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, what if we started spreading it out? What if we kind of broke the barriers of cliche hypnosis? And that's what I call it and teach my students. I was like, that's cliche hypnosis. What if we do new age hypnosis? What if we take the show out into the audience and include the audience in on the show? And in this case, what if we use some random person's phone? We have them call anyone they want that's not at the show, And then we get that person to hypnotize the volunteers, because then no one can say, oh, well, I paid people to do it, or it's set up, because they wouldn't know that I was going to get that person and that person's phone and call that person on that person's phone to hypnotize them. And it just thankfully worked. And so I've just been running with it ever since.
I like the way, do you say that sometimes to yourself? Thankfully it worked. Thankfully it worked.
More than you think. Yeah.
Well, we'll take a look at that right now. FaceTime hypnosis snippet. Tonight's word is snippet.
Snippet.
So it's like on Sesame Street. Today's word is. So we're going to say snippet, and here we go.
Like a friend or a parent or something, can anyone FaceTime someone right now? Can you FaceTime someone really quick? Yeah, do that really quick. This is new. This is something I just started doing a few months ago. It works pretty well usually. Let me know if you can actually get them online. Everyone up here is good. Hey bro, by the way, you're not blind, you're okay. You're fine. Hey, how you doing? You good? She's like his support system. It's like, you took cat on my friend. Are we good? Awesome. Awesome. I'm gonna come down there and I'm gonna steal it. That'd be fun. And that's how you steal technology. Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
So, I'm Hypnotist John WAYES, and these are my volunteers, and I'm gonna have you help me. Don't wait, it's them, not you. I'm gonna have you help me with something, okay? All you gotta do is say one word. I'm gonna whisper it into the mic so that they can't hear it. Are you ready? When I count to 3, you're gonna say the word. Understood? Let me do that one more time just to make sure you got it. On the count of 3, when I count to 3, you're gonna say the word. Got it? Cool. And what's your name?
Denise.
Denise. Everyone on stage, say hello to Denise. Everyone, look at her. She's got a message for you on the count of 1, 2, 3.
Blink.
There's our flapper. Now, Denise, there's someone right over there. She needs your message one more time. She needs your message one more time on 1, 2, 3.
Blink.
Thank you so much, Denise. I appreciate that. Everyone give it up for Denise.
That's really cool too. And again, the reactions to the audience reactions are really, they're like mesmerized by what they're like, is this really happening? I mean, and that's really cool, isn't it?
No, I love it. When I first got trained in Vegas at 19, my initial mentor was Anthony Jackman, who's a street hypnotist. And I remember him saying, up to this day, the induction, or that would be a reinduction, reintroducing them into the relaxed state of mental and physical relaxation, aka hypnosis. Mm-hmm. The induction is the sexiest part because it is the most theatrical. There's so many different ways you can do it. And especially like the young girl who flopped on the floor, like anybody who flops off their chair, it's called a flopper. So whenever you do anything that causes people to seemingly be under your control and just pass out in their chair, let alone pass out and then flop off their chair, it's a very theatrical thing for them to witness their own peers experience that. And so that's when I've decided, when I came up with that induction or reinduction, that I had to be more creative with how I did inductions and reinductions, because, and I thought about it, I was like, why not make the inductions or reinductions themselves a routine? And if we have that many people on stage, we can do a bunch of different things, and you can take up a few minutes just doing that, and it's still entertaining to watch.
That's really, really cool. We have another snippet. Another snippet. Now, this one is remote viewing mentalism. Now, for the audience's edification, big words, mentalism, edification, snippet, I tell you.
It's all you. I quit college. I didn't say it.
How do you define mentalism? how is it actually defined? We've heard about, and it's very in vogue right now for people to be talking about their mindset and being in touch with their mindset. There's also emotional intelligence and all these different things we're getting in touch with. But mentalism, how do you define what it is as the expert?
Well, thank you for thinking I'm an expert. No pressure.
That's my job. That's my job as host. Yes. Have a drink. Refill. Stat. He needs a refill. More ice.
Not be terrible. That'd be a great idea. I kind of look at it as how they described in the movie Now You See Me, which is it's a lot of, the truth is it's kind of like magic but for mind reading. So you're doing a lot of tricks to kind of divulge certain information from the person. Now, in some cases, some people are using micro expressions, body language reading. Believe it or not, I actually use more body language reading in hypnosis than mentalism, because the truth is a lot of people are usually just saying, we're reading your facial expressions, or we're doing body language reading. A lot of that's just for theatrics. Right. Usually, though, is just a form, and I know some mentalists might not like me for saying this, but it's a form of magic to frame as if we are psychics. And I always joke that mentalists are cheating psychics. We use tricks to kind of figure out what you're thinking and to extract certain pieces of information that we want for that time at that moment.
Very cool. Very cool definition. So here is remote viewing mentalism, now that we know mentalism as defined by the expert. And here we go.
This time, actually, let's mix it up a little bit. If you don't mind following me back there to make sure you know for a fact I am going back there, not doing anything weird. And this time, Chandler, I want you to actually take something. Actually, don't even take something, because someone might think that if you touch something, somehow that's a signal. So I just want you to point, or maybe hold it up for everyone to see, and then put it back down. Make sense? Awesome. Come here, my friend, and we're going to stay on the walkie-talkie with Chandler to ensure that Chandler doesn't think I'm cheating. And this is live, no cuts, no edits. We got my helpful assistant here making sure I'm not cheating. I'm not cheating, am I? Nope. All right, great. We're going to go past the exit sign. And now, Chandler, we are officially now in the hallway that confuses me. I want you to take an object from the table, lift it up, show it to everyone, and put the object back on the table. In fact, just do that. Just pick an object up, show it to everyone, and put it back on the table, please. Thank you. Yeah, this is what I looked at last time, too.
Okay.
All right, you've picked something, yes?
Yes. Are you there?
I'm there, thank you. I'm thinking. I have multiple eyes on me now. I have a camera and a live human person thinking I'm cheating and trying to figure out how I'm doing this. Sorry, hold on. This is taking me a minute. I can say for a fact you did not pick the fork or the tasty treat, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And this item is back on the table right now, correct?
Yes, it is.
Can you name the first two items from left to right, please?
The first one is a cup, and the second one is a beer can.
All right, thank you so much for picking the cup. We are coming back. Thank you. And yes or no, just so everyone knows, the entire time I was staring into a janitorial closet, correct? Thank you. Thank you.
That's amazing, too.
I actually...
That's a cool one.
Thank you. He actually booked me for 2 shows. The guy who I ended up going up and shaking the hand at the end, he was the organizer of that corporate event, and he wanted me to do 2 shows. And I was like, well, that's big. Okay. I don't normally do 2 holiday shows, so I was trying to come up with something big, and I spent about a day or 2 coming up with what I call remote viewing, which is basically the apparent ability to see something in a destination that you are not physically present in. So I was trying in the hallway looking into a janitor's closet, trying to see from his viewpoint, the organizer client's viewpoint, what he was looking at and what he was touching while not physically being there. So that way I could try to kind of divine, okay, what did he touch? What maybe he didn't touch? And then I just have to eventually be bold and bite the bullet and just say, all right, you did this. And again, thankfully it worked.
Are you always holding your breath during all of that, or
Sometimes, yeah. I was genuinely nervous in that hallway in that moment
Sure.
because I was starting to lose track mentally of where it was.
Yeah.
And so you see me bring my hand up and my fingers are like almost touching my collar, and I was like, where am I? Where am I? I was like, got it. And I was like, all right, name these two things. And he named it. I was like, all right, I already know it's the cup.
That's cool. And everybody's saying the same thing. I mean, Francis says very interesting. Juanita in South Africa watching, saying love it. Merlin in Canada saying wow. Danilo in San Diego saying
Hey.
amazing. We were just talking about San Diego. That's so amazing from Sherry and thankfully, LOL, the thankfully.
Yeah. That's definitely my vocabulary on a regular
That's
basis.
Kenny
I
says
play it off cool.
her brain hurts. I guess maybe keeping up on all of this.
Maybe. I remember when we were playing a clip or two ago, someone said something along the lines of, like, I don't remember who it was or where it is in the comments, but I remember someone commenting like, I'd be afraid to be your girlfriend.
You did see that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because maybe you could intuition and a little intuitive.
It happens. Yeah, I'm just going to say that it happens.
That's it. Levitation too. Does levitation? I mean, illusionists and levitation have always had a marriage together. How about you as far as levitation? We had Andrew Main on, who you watched the other couple of days ago as well, the magician, and now he's into artificial intelligence and all these other cool things as well. My nephew's into all of that also. But do you get involved with levitation and all of that end of it too, John?
So I used to be obsessed with the idea of, excuse me, levitating and floating. And so much so that when I was in, what was it? I was in either 8th grade or beginning of high school, and I bought a book off a magazine called Things You Never Knew Existed. And it was like, I don't even know, like Astral something or other by like Agent or Professor X. And it was describing the book to me, and one of the things was you could use your mind to make yourself invisible, and you could eventually levitate and just float around. And I was like, I would be the best magician in the world if I could do that. So I bought the book, I learned it, I did some of the techniques. My dad made a just made it very, I don't know what the right word is, but he made it very obvious that I was not floating around the house and floating downstairs to come to dinner. And I remember at one point he asked me, he's like, so when can we expect you to float home so we don't have to drive you home from school? Or when can you just float into your bed or something like that? And that's when I realized, okay, this book was probably not the best investment. But then one weekend when I conveniently got grounded, I got a DVD from Illusionist called King Rising, and it was their best levitation technique that year, I think. And it taught me how to impromptu go up to almost anyone, anywhere, and seemingly, obviously, the illusion is you levitate. And when I started doing that, my friends were so impressed that they started offering my illusions and my miracles for their own gain. I remember my childhood best friend took me to a garage sale and said, I want this, I think it was like a fondue maker. And he's like, I want this fondue maker. And here he is. And I was like, excuse me, what was this for? And the lady looks at me and goes, okay, if he can float like you said, I'll give it to you for free. And I was like, really, dude? Come on. And so I did. And he got the fondue thing for free. So I did it when I was younger because it was a cool parlor trick to do.
Yeah.
I think the next step up would probably be like David Copperfield level, actually floating around the room.
Sure.
I know how he's done most of that.
Yeah.
And up to date, it requires a lot more, honestly, construction than I'm willing to put in.
when Andrew was on, we were talking about some of his heroes. He mentioned often David Copperfield. I brought up Houdini. Of course, everybody knows Houdini. He also mentioned Doug Henning, who, of course, we lost early. He was amazing, too. He used to have his own TV specials. I think it was on NBC as well. For you, and a couple of the viewers or lovedies around the world have asked this question. Who are some of the folks that you've looked up to, that you've either you've had an opportunity to meet or you'd love to meet, or just people that you've admired doing all of this kind of work?
So I think I was very fortunate that Jane Lozada, who again I call David Blaine's consultant, reached out to me when I was 19 for the Vegas training. So I've met him. So I think by like 6 degrees of separation, I say I've met David Blaine through Jay. But I think that's probably the closest I've gotten to David Blaine, because he is one of the top 2 people I personally would love to meet and hang out with, chat with, have dinner with. You know, those like Facebook questions like, alive or dead, what celebrity would you like to hang out with? David
How about
Blaine,
like a Chris Angel, too?
I think that's the best response I can give to that for now.
A deep, low, expelling of air.
I had my parents, when I was a teenager, I had my parents buy a bunch of his stuff for me for Christmas. And I thought he was really cool. And he was obviously very emo, very edgy. And so was I in high school, because it's high school. There's my answer. But yeah, there's a lot that I learned and that had happened between the time I started following him and kind of my 20s when I started professionally performing. That I was like, you know what? I'll leave it on the note with Chris Angel, at least, that it seemed like he had a really good run and an amazing time with his TV show. And I loved his TV show. I was watching all the episodes, sometimes 2 or 3 times in a row. But I just kind of eventually naturally gravitated away for various reasons. And I ended up sticking to David Blaine, because he's always pushing himself, which is something I always admired, because I try to push myself artistically. He's always pushing himself artistically, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And I think other than that, when I got into hypnosis, Darren Brown is like the top of our field in terms of psychological illusionists and hypnotists. And he came to New York, I think, twice already. And unfortunately, I missed the last one. But I think David Blaine and Darren Brown are probably the 2 people I most would like to be in the presence of. And yeah, I think that would just be cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you like Copperfield and folks like that too? Yeah,
no, definitely. I'd say for me, David Copperfield's probably 3rd. And I would definitely, and I was literally, after I watched the Andrew Main interview with you guys, I actually was thinking that night about, in the next year, hopefully COVID isn't going to be as restricting all of us as it is now. I would actually like to go to Vegas, where I was trained initially, and actually go see the David Copperfield show, because I've been wanting to do that for years. And I think I follow him on Twitter, but I'm not sure, because I started edging my way away from most social media earlier this year. But yeah, no, I would love to see him and take a picture with him. He seems like a really cool guy. I know he was in, one interesting fact not a lot of people know is someone tried to sue him, I think about a year ago, and he was in court and actually had to publicly reveal how one of his illusions was done. Because some guy from like years ago
was big.
Was like complaining.
So what about like with you, with any of the work that you do with the illusion, the hypnotism, is there any of that you have to, do they have to sign a waiver? Is there anything that they have to do so that way you're protected as well as them if, something were to occur during any event? Is there any of that happens?
Usually not with magic, but the contract my corporation has with both magic and hypnosis is the same. And the main liability comes with hypnosis just because it is still not fully understood by most people. And there have been, of course, as happens when you're a growing artist, whether you're new or old, I know people in both situations that have had incidents. We all have had incidents. Life happens. Accidents occur. We move on. We grow. So with that said, the main liability in our corporate contract has to deal with hypnosis and basically saying, John's going to say these things to keep you mentally, physically, and emotionally safe. But if anyone agrees that these are not issues that they're dealing with, and they're knowingly lying about that so they can get hypnotized, then neither obviously John nor any affiliate parties are liable for what happens, because there have been times when people do get hypnotized and let's say I heard this story from someone who saw me perform and talked to me after my show one time and said, I probably should do safety precautions if I ever want to do hypnosis too. And I said, why? He said, I'm not trained or professional like you. He said, but I tried to do a house party one time with some friends, and I didn't know one girl had multiple personality disorder. I hypnotized her, and apparently she had 7 personalities because they all came out when I snapped my fingers. I had to stop the entire demonstration, and he spent over an hour learning each personality's name and putting each of it back in their places. And so to avoid such liability, and that's just like one minute piece of a lot of psychological things that could happen, the main liability on the contract is just, hey, we're going to be here and we're going to be safe and approach this as safely as possible to make sure that you have as much fun while staying as safe as possible. But please be, realistic and understanding of what's going on, so that way you do in fact stay safe, because we don't want this to happen to you. And this just happened on my YouTube last night at like 3 a.m. Some girl commented literally the fact that I said in my audio, hey, if you see a doctor or a psychiatrist or take medication or have easily triggered panic or anxiety attacks, consult a physician before using this or any type of recording. And she typed it out in the comments almost in a semi-mocking sense. She's like, don't do this if you have these issues. And then the ending part of her comment was, asterisk, also me, : listens anyway. And I had to back out. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't have a conversation with you if you're not going to respect your own mind and body, because that scares me.
Right, exactly, yeah. Which is a very smart thing to do. And you're looking out for the person, which I think is really, it speaks to your character too, I think
I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, that's the key to it all. I think we have a couple of others. Let's see what we have here. I think we looked at Halloween mentalism, FaceTime. We have some really cool photos too that we want to look at, because there's you actually on the scene. Like you mentioned the yacht opportunities. This one is the Chicago yacht.
Anita D2, yeah. That was the first.
Tell us about this. This is amazing.
So I was in my home office and I just got a request saying, hey, we want to, and this is ironically around the time I was like, I'm not sure I want to do kids parties anymore. And I get this request and this woman goes, hey, we're doing a 5-year-old birthday party. And immediately I'm like, nah. But I just scroll through the request and it goes, we're on a yacht. We have this many people and this is what we want. We want a hypnotist. Normally, people aren't hiring me to do a hypnosis show for a 5-year-old. So that's the one thing that kind of caught my intrigue. I was like, all right, so it's a yacht, which is, first of all, amazing because I've never been on a yacht. And 2, hypnosis for a 5-year-old. And so I responded and I ended up calling them. This is back when I was dealing with all clients myself one-on-one. And I was like, what's going on? Like, you really want me to hypnotize the 5-year-old? And she said, well, you can if you want, but we actually have teenagers and adults that we would like you to hypnotize for her entertainment. And that's when I realized this, I'll just say this family's got it going on. If you can throw a party on a 3-tier yacht for a 5-year-old, I was immediately envious of that 5-year-old and agreed to come. And when I came, I was impressed. It was huge, 3-story yacht. And this was on the very top story when we were about a mile maybe out from the Chicago pier. And this is, I think, the young lady's grandfather, I want to say. And he came up to me. He's like, yeah, cool. You're hypnotizing other people. I don't think you can do me. And I had him out in about 30 seconds right there. And it was sunny and beautiful.
Yeah. And what did he say when, he came out of it? What was he shocked? Did he not believe it happened to him, or what was his reaction?
He had the biggest smile on his face, and his whole face was red, and he just laughed hysterically. And that's when I realized that I'm very American, because then he grabbed my face and proceeded to kiss me all over. And I was very culture shocked in the moment. But that's when I realized also, like, oh yeah, like that's how they do things. And I was like, that's the compliment. I'm like, oh, okay, good. So I'm on his good side. And yeah, they ended up rebooking me for another year or 2 after that, obviously before the COVID thing hit. And that's definitely one of my more fond memories and favorite things that I've ever done.
That's incredible. And then you mentioned the America's Got Talent opportunity as well. Tell us about that and what was happening here in this shot.
So this was Chicago, and this was back in 2016. I went in, and I went in like at like 6 and 7 in the morning, and I was actually staying at the McCormick place, which is right across the hall from this area. And I came over, and I actually met this gentleman in the lobby the night beforehand, and I was telling him what I did, and he's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then he was telling me he was an autistic comedian, but he wasn't sure about how he was going to feel with his nerves. And then we ended up meeting each other after we signed in, got our number, did all the paperwork. And when we got into the waiting room, which is, I think they called it the blue room there, we ended up meeting and walking across each other. And as you can see, strapped around my shoulder, I have my camera bag. And I was just doing a big YouTube vlog of behind the scenes because I realized I hadn't seen, just like doing hypnosis shows and researching what you can do different with hypnosis. I thought, what could I do different with my experience? And I realized I hardly ever see behind the scenes audition vlogs about America's Got Talent, let alone from hypnotists. So I decided to go in and film it. As I'm doing it, he comes across, he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm great. How are you?" And he goes, "I'm really anxious." And I was like, "You're the autistic comedian, right?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "How, like, what level is your anxiety at?" And he told me it was really high. And there was actually a family to our right sitting in a circle that were practicing songs and singing. And they saw me walk up to him and put, I think it was either his hand or my hand in front of his face. And then I just quickly relaxed him. And this is about 30 seconds or 45 seconds into it. And I'm basically giving him really quick hypnotherapy for both anxiety relief as well as energy boost and motivation to have the confidence to just wake up and be like, "Yeah, I got this. I can do it. I'm a comedian. You know, I don't let the disability define me, and I can just go do it." And I woke him up about a minute later, and he woke up kind of like the guy on the yacht. He was just like much brighter, much lighter, much happier. And I was like, "Hey, you got this." And he goes, "Yeah." And then he just hands me his audition paper. And I'm like, "Okay." And then he just walks off and goes and performs for a group right then and there. And I'm like,
That's amazing, huh?
"I'll be here."
I'll be here. Absolutely. That is very, very cool. This one's cool too at the university. Tell us about this.
That was Bloomsburg University in Pennsylvania. The first time I've ever done a show on a mountain because they thought it would be cool, I guess, to build an entire university on a mountain. I went up there, and this was actually, I think, their new theater. Definitely the biggest theater they had. And kind of like earlier how I was talking about doing historic theaters, and I've done a 3-tier theater. This was an enormous 2-tier college theater, and some of the biggest audience I've ever had. And I ended up hypnotizing a bunch of people in the audience. These people on stage are the primary people who reacted the best, and I brought them up, and that ended up being one of my most, in a good way, chaotic comedy stage hypnosis shows. That was actually my last show of that fall tour that year, and that was either 2 or 3 years ago. But that was the first time I also ever experienced what I now call a performer's high, where the energy was so intense and so positive and so massive, and everything that was happening was just so good that I literally had an emotional and somewhat of an also physical buzz off of it. And it went so well that they actually asked me, some of the students stayed and literally made me do an encore performance after that.
Did they really?
And so I think I ended up performing for about almost 2.5 hours.
Mm.
I
That's
was
incredible. Yeah, you must. You were just like, whoosh.
Like I said, I'm very introverted and I don't normally talk a lot. Like this will be the most I talk tonight. So that night, doing 2 performances, one obviously hired by the campus, but then the other demanded by the students and given permission to do so by the organizers after the main show, was incredible. But I remember like for an hour after that, I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Life is amazing." And then I got to my hotel or Airbnb or wherever I was staying, and then I crashed. I was like, "Whoa."
Francis is asking, does it last? Like if you hypnotize somebody and it's something positive, like for example, the person
Specifically,
come
when you're able to calm a person with autism, or would they keep going back for more?
for more
So,
hypnotherapy type thing. Yeah.
so when it comes to hypnotherapy, even though I don't actively do it as much anymore, what I always used to tell my clients is hypnotherapy is like the gym for your mind. You don't walk into the gym, lift a 20-pound dumbbell 30 times, and come out Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's gonna come from repetition. So the
Right.
more you go to the gym, the more you train your body, the bigger your body grows for muscle, or the more weight you lose if you're trying to lose weight, and the better you look over time. So in the same sense, hypnotherapy is about repetition, because the more you condition your mind for any reason, the more it's going to adopt that mentality. So people, that's why some Hollywood movies kind of put in the joke of, positive affirmations, and people always drone over it in the movies like, I love myself, I'm amazing, looking in the mirror. And people are like, oh, it doesn't work. But the truth is, the more often you verbalize something to yourself with positive affirmations, or the more often you go to a hypnotherapist for whatever reason, the more positively conditioned your mind will be over time to be on whatever track to reach whatever goal it is that you want. I remember I helped someone with chronic anxiety years ago, and her anxiety got really bad at rush hour when she was in a car. And I gave her a personalized session, and then gave her an MP3, and I gave her a schedule of when to listen to the MP3. And I think within a week, she went from having chronic anxiety to, she said it was about a 3 or 4 out of 10 the week after, when she started going home and using the tool I taught her. But
There's a big difference. Yeah.
the more sessions we did, the more she was able to control it and realize that she, as we all do, has to start up here and realize that it's all in your mind first and foremost, and that obviously autism is a bit different. And I'm not a doctor by any chance. As I said earlier, I don't have a degree, but a lot of what we're going through with mental health, I found out literally physically affects our bodies. So if we can begin to train and condition our minds, whether we need to go to a therapist or do research on our own and do self-hypnosis, then that is a positive step every single day toward whatever goal we're trying to do. And I've done it through performing. I've done it through self-talk, through self-hypnosis. I've gotten to the point where I've come from social anxiety and throwing up after shows 10 years ago to being where I am. I mean, it took a long time, but then it always comes down to how dedicated are you to that goal.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of goals, Real Hypnotic D said that needs to lose a few pounds before it can even take off, let alone levitate.
Oh, Drew, I love you.
Any suggestions for Real Hypnotic D, Drew?
Subway Eat Fresh. It worked for Jared. I'm sure it'll work for you. I don't know. I can only say that because he's my friend. Other than that, just think real hard, buddy. Think real hard. Dream big dreams. I don't know. Now I'm just stealing my colleague's phrase.
How about self-hypnosis for weight loss? Is there things that too?
Yeah, no, there's a ton. If you just research self-hypnosis MP3s, I believe weight loss, smoking cessation, and pain management are the 3 most popularly requested forms of hypnotherapy worldwide. Mm-hmm. I used to give, when I first moved out as a teenager and moved into my first house with roommates, I actually hypnotized the guy who I was trying to convince to let me live with him. He's like, well, how are you going to pay for rent? And I hypnotized him and I brought him out. And he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. What I never told him until 2 or 3 years after I lived with him is during that time, I hypnotized him to lower my rent by $50.
I was just about to say that.
I did. It worked. But then the roommate we ended up getting later on, I actually hypnotized him for weight loss. And he lost, I think, like 10 or 20 pounds in a month just from the hypnotherapy alone. So it always comes down to, and I have to relate the effectiveness of hypnosis or hypnotherapy to alcohol, in the sense that we all react differently to different types of alcohol. So our personalities are going to react to different types of hypnosis or different approaches to hypnosis. So one approach might work for Jane Doe, but not work great for Billy, and vice versa. That's why going and seeing and paying for a professional one-on-one tailored hypnotherapy session is always going to be much more statistically effective than a YouTube video or audio, because the audio and YouTube video are made for a general audience. They're not made for you.
Specifically made for you. It's just like a doctor visit too. If you're going to see your doctor, they're going to tailor something that's specific to what's going on with you. I mean, that's how it is. Exactly. You do corporate dinner events too. Let's talk about that.
I do. Yeah, anytime I see corporate dinner, I'm just interested because there's usually going to be a few young adults, which I have here on stage. And
Plus,
then
do you get dinner out of it too? Or
oh yeah, that's part of the rider on the
Yeah.
contract.
yeah,
Me and my assistant always have to do it. Um, but I got hired to do that, and that was in, I think, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I took that partially because I had multiple friends in Fort Wayne, so it always also gives me a chance to go to the city early, hang out with some friends, catch up, and then do a show. But the corporate events obviously pay well, but it's always interesting to be able to find the people in any corporate audience that are open-minded enough and understanding enough to get the experience, or let me give them the experience by guiding them through the mind as a hypnotist, and then having the older parts of the crowd look and go like, wow, one, John isn't a terrible hypnotist, like he's not going to make me do a chicken dance or do something embarrassing that I'm going to regret. And
Yeah.
two, like, wow, I've seen this stuff on YouTube or TV or elsewhere, but kind of like the college kids and high school kids, like those are my peers up there, those are my work colleagues. So not only did he not do anything embarrassing, but he actually made it look really fun, and he actually proved to me by hypnotizing my colleague it's real. And that crowd was also very interesting because the really big guy behind me with the beard really liked drinking. And so at some point during the show, I hypnotized him to think I was his long lost best friend. And he woke up and immediately gave me a bear hug, stood up, and he was so big I had to stand up with him because he just carried me off stage, and he literally ran me to the bar.
So that was his form of levitation for you.
Yeah, he literally, and this is still mid show, and while he is hypnotized, and then I end up giving him one of my drinks, and I hypnotize him to think it's his favorite drink, and yeah, that was a fun time. That was a good show. I ended up staying quite late after that too, because then they found out that I used to break dance, and they wanted me to dance on the dance floor.
We don't have any video of the breakdance. What happened? You failed to send that one, I noticed.
Yeah, it's not something I talk
Don't feel
about.
like doing it live, do you? No,
It's
not enough
carpet.
room. Yeah, carpet. It doesn't work with the carpet.
And I'm also old now. My knees crack anytime I stand up. So
That is funny. Here's another video here. It says Hypnotist John WAYES, and it says 2020. So we'll click on this, and we'll bring this up, and we'll watch it, and then we can talk about it right after. This looks like another cool one too.
sweet.
Yeah, here it comes.
That's one of my favorite promos.
Yeah, that's a great one too. That's a great one.
Took forever to edit.
Yeah. You could just see the scope of your work too, and the variety of people you get to work with too. And it showed that clip of the guy carrying you across the room, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I wasn't joking.
Did you break anything? Some people have asked, do you ever get hurt doing any of this? Do you get hurt doing any of this? Have you ever been hurt, on the job?
I don't. Interestingly, I think it's so funny. The one time that I really got hurt was actually doing a magic show for my hashtag snippets.
Those are sick edits and snippets.
Was
Which, for those who are not sure, that's actually a compliment.
true.
Sick edits and snippets. Wow, that sounds like a new Broadway play, doesn't it? Sick edits and snippets.
I just want 10% royalty. That's all I care about.
Yeah, hashtag snippets. We got levity here, and now we got snippets.
But the one time I really hurt myself was actually I stabbed myself in the hand and started bleeding during a magic show. It was after my 8th grade graduation when I hadn't gotten into hypnosis yet. I was doing a balloon effect where you could put a huge needle directly through a huge balloon and it just wouldn't pop. And so I did it and it went well. I was like, cool. And now I'm going to pop it. And in my mind, I wasn't considering how the secret of the effect works. So I just stabbed the balloon and it just flew out of my hand as the needle went straight into my hand. And I just remember looking at my hand and that's red liquid. That's not supposed to be there. Ouch. Oh yeah. Continue the show. And I jumped off stage and I ran for the balloon. I started stabbing the balloon on the floor and it kept popping out until it went into the audience. into the first few rows where there were kids, and I was like, "Oh, needle, hi, can I have the balloon?" And I ended up just like taking it near the stage and whacking it with the tip and popping it. Other than that, I did another stabbing effect when I was in high school, where I shoved a foot-long screwdriver through my foot, and most of that went well, but I did come out of that one also with a bruise, almost bloody. But that was also very David Blaine inspired, because he loves shoving things through his body and doing crazy stunts as well. But as far as hypnosis goes, I'll tell you right now, I've had some crazy verbal reactions from volunteers, but I don't think I myself have been hurt. I've been worried about volunteers sometimes, because there was one time where we did a show, and there was a girl so under hypnosis that she went under, like she was sitting up straight, and then she immediately flopped over onto her own lap so quick and hard that it caused her to tumble, and she actually on the floor, and everyone heard it. And I immediately went over there. I was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And then I checked on her after the show, and thankfully she's like, "No, like everything's fine, nothing hurts." And I was like, "Okay, cool, no trouble." But I think other than those two things, it's been thankfully a safe time.
Now, you and I were talking before we went live. You've also been doing things, because obviously you can't, because of what we've been going through this year with the social distancing and the pandemic and the economic situation and everything that's been going on, which is just about everything you could think of almost. Knock on wood. I mean, because the year hasn't ended yet. Yeah, I know.
Gotcha.
Come in.
Sleep, stay.
I know. It's really eerie, because the way those... Now, is there one door there, or are you making it look like there's two?
I plead the fifth. I don't know, 42 Douglas Adams. That's all I got.
I was just about to say, because the way those doors are angled in the shot, it's very like Shining, like The Shining.
It
It's
is.
sort of like who's going to come out of door number 1 and door number 2?
Gotta wait for the finale. I like to build up anticipation.
That's it, exactly. Oh, yeah, good question too. Have you ever been hypnotized?
Yeah, so honestly, without knowing it was hypnosis, the very first experience I had was when I was a teenager, and I had two friends over. One of them had actually been at a hypnotherapist because he wasn't doing his homework. And it was funny because he was legitimately, IQ-wise and grade-wise, the smartest kid in our class, let alone grade school, that they were considering throwing him like 2 or 3 grades ahead of where he was. He had been to a hypnotherapist to have motivation to do his homework, because he just felt it was too menial to do. And so he came over to my house one day with another friend, and I told him I couldn't remember the passcode to a PlayStation game called Mortal Kombat, and I couldn't get into my profile. And he laid me down. He kind of did the hypnotherapy thing, and then within a few minutes, I literally, half my body rose up like an exorcism, and I snatched the controller off the ground. I went, and then boom, I was just logged in. And I looked at him, I'm like, what did you do? What was it? And he goes, "Oh, I just hypnotized you." I didn't really understand the concept at that time, but it wasn't, and so therefore I should say, it wasn't until I was 19, I went to Vegas, that I believe the first person to hypnotize me was a gentleman from, I want to say, the UK, because the people who taught me was Anthony Jacquin, Marcus Lewis, and a few other people from the UK, known as the United Kingdom head hackers. And Marcus Lewis came up to me, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, hey, I'm from the Midwest. I've been hypnotizing people, but I don't understand it, so I want to understand it more. And I also might want to do this as a job, because I already do magic, and a lot of magicians go into hypnosis." And he's like, "Oh, interesting." And he kind of like, it almost seemed like he kind of verbally brushed it off. Not verbally, but he was like, "Okay, yeah, cool, whatever." And he just starts walking away. And I said, "Oh, but I really want to be hypnotized, because I've hypnotized other people, but I've never," again, I don't remember. I didn't think about my friend doing it as real hypnosis. I said, "I've never been hypnotized." And he immediately stops. I still remember this to this day. He stops and turns around and goes, "You've never been hypnotized." And he just walks up to me, puts his hand in front of my face, and all I remember is hearing and then I was out. And I woke up, and my hand was stuck to my head, and my feet were stuck to the floor. And I was like, "What's going on?" I was either like this or this. And he's like, "You can remove your hand when I tap it, but that's only because you can remove your name as well." And he tapped my hand, And I was like, all right. He goes, what's your name? I'm like, and 3 girls in the casino lobby, were walking up on my back right side. And I remember hearing them, and I turned, I'm like, oh, 3 attractive girls. But what was really in the front of my mind was what I yelled at them. I turned around, I just go, what the heck is my name? And they all stop. And then they all look at me like I'm a crazy person. They all turn around simultaneously and walk back directly the way they came. And all the guys and hypnotists are laughing. I just turn around, I'm like, dude, stop. Like, I want to talk to them, and I don't know what's going on. And he just goes, he's like, shh, calm down, sleep. And I went right back under, and all I just remember was seeing black because my eyes were closed, and I woke up and everything was back to normal. And I was just like, that is simultaneously the weirdest and coolest thing I've ever experienced. And I was like, I am pumped for this training. And then the next 3 days, they trained us how to do it.
Very cool. And you weren't able to run back to find the 3 girls because they were long gone, or you didn't remember even that happening?
My future wife has lost herself in Las Vegas somewhere. I don't know where she is anymore.
That's Francis says if someone ever hypnotized her for her passwords, 100 different ones would come out of her.
At least you'd have one of them, though.
That's right, exactly.
There's a positive side.
Sneak attack hypnosis.
It was. I literally called him in my hypnosis vlog, the Hypnosis Ninja. My college had a hypnotist come each year, and it would be our favorite entertainment night. So many would participate, like showing your videos. Thank you. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I love it. That hypnosis I was telling Jim beforehand, colleges and high schools are probably my most favorite venues just because all the kids want to have a party. They want to have fun, and they want to act a fool. And it makes it easier because they're very artistic. They're very open-minded, and they're willing to jump in. Like, this is Blue Earth Era in Minnesota, and they've been one of my longer-lasting clients every year for after prom. And they almost tried to push through COVID to get me there this year, but obviously decided it was safest to wait until next year. But I think this would have been there for 2019, and coincidentally, it was, I think, casino night, and I obviously fit very well in there because a lot of hypnotists go to casinos, and that was a very interesting show. We had people reading foreign languages. We had twerking competitions, I think, as well as ballerina competitions, and then someone, I think, stood on a table because they thought there was a shark on the floor. High schoolers and college students are very creative.
Yeah, they come up with everything, right?
Yeah, and that's definitely one of my favorite high schools to go to. They're always very cool, open, exciting, very mellow, my kind of people.
Does it make you miss your high school days, or?
No.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that.
No, I actually tried to get my high school to hire me, but my high school is very Catholic. So I remember, I think it was my last year in high school. I went to prom like 5 times, and don't ask how that happened.
How'd that happen?
It was my proms and other proms. And I remember one of my last years, I wanted to perform. I'm like, you guys just like, I won't charge anything. Just let me do it. And they're like, that's weird. And, let's just try to keep it a good Catholic friendly thing. So I decided, okay, cool. Keep it cool and Catholic, which means I'm going to wait until after prom. I'm going to get the most susceptible kid I know who's on the football team. And I'm going to hypnotize him in a chair to feel stuck to the chair, laugh his butt off because of it, and forget his name. And I did that, and I ended up getting a huge crowd. And I remember just looking to my left and sitting against the wall, the principal's just going.
Yeah.
And I just had a great feeling. I'm like, still got my bucket list thing.
And you stole his prom date too, right? You got the prom date out of it.
No comment.
No comments. No fingerprints, nothing.
Nothing. Just let that go.
Have you ever had a situation where you're working with one person, hypnotizing, them, but then somebody else sitting next to them or in the room also has that happen to them, which was unexpected, or maybe you didn't know that was going to happen. But tell us about that, where that you're focused on that one person, but then the effect happens to somebody else nearby.
So that actually happens a lot. I've even almost accidentally and unintentionally hypnotized my videographers, because the truth is, hypnosis is all about the mind. All you have to do is listen to the sound of my voice and the words I say. A hypnotist is a fancy title for mental guide. I can't mind control you. I can't make you do anything you wouldn't normally want to do in any given state of mind. So all I'm going to do is guide you through your mind naturally in a natural process of relaxation, breathing, this and that. And because of that, as long as you can hear my voice, it can affect you. And I remember I've been wanting to do Notre Dame University for years because my friend and colleague, Chris Jones from America's Got Talent, did it twice, I think, maybe 3 times. And I was like, getting into Notre Dame for performing for them would be awesome. And I finally had the opportunity to, I think 3 weeks ago now. And I did my first virtual university show, and I hypnotized 3 dorm rooms, and we got a few kids together who actually ended up getting into it. And at the very end, and I just taught this on my HypnoKick website to my paying students, there's a kid at the very end on a couch, completely passed out, that tried and thought it may or may not work, and he tried it and it didn't work. And then he just sat there for the rest of the show and nothing happened. But then like the last part of the show, he just gets out of nowhere. And so everyone else is awake, aware, conscious, and back in good spirits. I'm like, that was amazing, this and that. And I go, excuse me, there's a dude passed out on that couch. Can we go talk to him? And he had no clue that it even happened. So it's very natural for people in the audience. And that's why I tell people, hey, you might get hypnotized. So if you don't want to, you can leave, or you can plug your ears, or you can just kind of make a very conscious effort to ignore everything I say. But if you hear me, you can get hypnotized. And so with that said, I've hypnotized skeptics. I've hypnotized, people who don't think they could be, or they want to, but they're not sure if they can be. It happens. And I love it because it's further proof that to the people in the room, like, oh, well, he didn't believe it, or he didn't think he could get hypnotized, but he did. So obviously something about this is pretty legitimate.
Mm-hmm. Merlin asks, can everyone be hypnotized? And Juanita asked something similar. Juanita in South Africa, are there people that cannot be hypnotized?
So when you think about hypnosis, most people think about comedy stage hypnosis we're talking about. In that sense, not really, because everyone has a different psychology. Certain hypnotists have certain approaches that aren't going to work with everyone's psychology. So statistically, kind of like a YouTube video, it's not going to work for everyone in the room. That said, actual hypnosis at its core in and of itself is just mental and physical relaxation. So going to sleep is literal hypnosis. So we're all hypnotizable, because otherwise we couldn't go to sleep. When you go to sleep, you close your eyes, you breathe in, you breathe out, your mind wanders, your body relaxes, and eventually you pass out into delta unconsciousness. Same thing when I'm doing the hypnosis. I'm relaxing you, I'm having you close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out, allowing your mind to wander and body to relax.
Is any of this similar to when people are sleepwalking, when they wake up, or when they lift up out of bed and they're walking through the house sleeping, but yet they're communicating, they're talking, sometimes they make food, and they're looking right at you, and it's almost as if you think that they're awake because they're responding. Is there a correlation between the two?
I'm actually very ironically glad you asked that, because the word somnambulist describes someone who literally walks in their sleep. The definition of a somnambulist is someone who actually is very easily hypnotized. So if you drop into hypnosis really easily and quickly, and you just respond to everything I say, you're considered a somnambulist. If you don't, then you might not be a somnambulist. But the process is the same. And people who do walk in their sleep, I don't know if I've ever I mean, I probably have, based on the amount of people I've hypnotized, but I haven't asked anyone, so I can't say for sure. But my educated guess is I've probably hypnotized at least one natural somnambulist sleepwalker at some point in time, which probably made them a very good candidate for the show. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. So you were saying in reference to if everybody can be hypnotized, or are there some people that are just so resistant, they're so built up, he will not do it to me, he's not going to do it to me, it's not going to happen. Do you have that too, and it doesn't happen, or does it end up happening anyway?
My own father did that when I got back from Vegas. He's like, you're my son, you don't know anything, you can't hypnotize me. And I'm not joking when I say it took me about 30 to 60 seconds to put him out and convince him that his hand was stuck to his head. He was going so red in the vase, and his veins were popping out of his forehead, trying to take his hand off his head, that I was like, oh, really? And then, of course, yeah, at every show, especially older audiences, especially corporate, women are usually kind of freaked out by it, like, oh, don't do that to me. That's weird. You don't want to be in this. All the women are like, you don't want to know what's in my mind. That's a scary place to go. And then all the guys are like, come at me, try to hypnotize me. Bet you can. And I used to get really defensive with that 10 years ago. I was like, I can hypnotize you because I was super ambitious. And now I'm just like, okay, whatever, goodbye. But every show you have people who are really into it. You have people who are like, I want to, but I'm not sure, or I'm scared, or, I'm kind of, maybe I just need a little bit more information. And other people who are just like, no, it's all a scam. It's BS. It doesn't work. You can't hypnotize me. So it's especially satisfying when I'm able to unintentionally hypnotize them at some point in the show. And then they come out of it and they're like, well, I didn't believe, but you've converted me. I go, well, thank you. I'm glad I converted you, but it's not a religion, so there's no belief. Let's put that out there right now. You just experienced the power of your own mind, and that's what I always try to tell people: is it's me guiding you through the power of your own mind, because it's not a religion; it's an experience.
Mm-hmm. Merlin says that when she was a child, she'd open doors and walk out onto the street, and had a cop bring her home often.
Wow, I wasn't that extreme, but I as a kid, I used to sleepwalk. I used to walk out my bedroom like a creepy kid, and I would just walk circles around my dining room table until my parents found me.
My mother said that I did that too, and my sister did it. And I remember being in the living room when my sister actually did come out of her room, and she was sitting there, and she was looking right at us, and she was talking with us. And then when she was done with whatever the conversation was, she just went back into the room and lay down in the bed. Next day, didn't remember a single thing. And then I remember my parents saying that I came out of the room once, and I didn't go into the living room to sit down to talk. For some reason, I wanted to go down into the basement, which at 1 o'clock in the morning or even 11 at night wouldn't have been something as a kid I would just volunteer to go into the dark basement for any particular reason.
Yeah.
And then I guess there was a couple of words that I said that I must have picked up, from other people, that were words that if you had said them when you were awake would have been a problem. Do you know it? Do you know that curse word that you said last night? I'm like, huh? What?
That's interesting. I always find that really interesting. And the weird thing is, now as an adult, I don't really do that, but
Yeah,
sometimes I
no,
wish I
right,
did.
exactly. You're the same thing. I wonder why as a kid, some adults do, but I wonder
Yeah.
why it's more of something that you hear of with kids.
And that's one thing I actually discussed on a recent lesson on hypnokick.com was, it's interesting that when you get to hypnosis, like past just regular hypnosis, which is mental physical relaxation, when you get past regular hypnosis into hypnotic phenomena where you're so mentally physically relaxed that your inhibitions are lowered, you're tapped into your creative mind, and you're willing to react to commands that the hypnotist gives you, that is because you're fully tapping into your creative mind and making that real for yourself as a person. So it's funny that people as adults, I wonder if it's because we get jaded by like life or whatnot, but as adults, we find it very hard to believe that we can engage in our imagination enough to forget our name, or think we have a new name, or think our butt's glued to a chair because the hypnotist said so, when realistically, this is all the same kind of stuff you used to do as a kid. So why is it so hard to believe that you can tap into that same power as an adult?
Exactly right. A couple of comments coming in reference to this cool topic. Merlin said that her mom put a lock on the top of the door, and she would get a stool and open it. Christine, so is sleepwalking connected in any way to hypnosis? We were talking about that. Jennifer used to sleepwalk, and she would do the basement thing too. She would go to the top of the
Interesting.
basement stairs, just take one step, and her mother would grab her. It's almost as if you're challenging yourself to go to a place that you wouldn't normally go to
Maybe.
when you're awake. Just the basement at night. I mean, why would you volunteer? Caddy says, I sometimes wake up in the weirdest places because I sleepwalk during the night.
Oh, Katie, interesting.
Mm,
I don't.
that's
I
Katie,
think
26. Yeah.
I'm consciously aware I've only slept walk once, but and again, for some reason, I have this weird thing where like I wish I could experience it now, just because I'm weird and I think it'd be cool to do.
And to like have it videotaped, so to see yourself
Yeah.
doing it.
And to answer the one lady's question, I don't know, honestly. I'm not a psychiatrist or actual, PhD psychologist. I don't know if it's related to hypnosis, but I mean, it is a, I guess, form of hypnosis since somnambulism is used in both,
Right.
is a terminology in both topics.
Right. Exactly. Got another cool shot here. This was, I believe, high school graduation. Look at everybody here.
Elkhorn High School, Wisconsin. Interestingly enough, let's see if I can see him. If you look really closely, there's actually a kid near the front of the camera
Yeah.
with a cast on his foot.
Yeah.
And what's interesting was his mom was actually the organizer of this event and booked me a few weeks before this event was happening. And when I came in, she actually told me that without him knowing that she booked me, he had actually already been following me and looking at my videos on YouTube. And when she told him like a day or so before the event, hey, we're hiring this guy to come to your high school, he apparently lost his cool in a good way. He's like, oh my God, I watch him on YouTube. This is going to be crazy. So that was the first time that I'm aware of that someone had actively participated in watching a lot of my videos and really enjoyed it and looked at me as kind of like a star, which was also kind of weird for me because, again, I don't really look at myself that way. So when I went to the school, I set up the chairs and everything, and I met him initially in the wheelchairs. He was wheeling down the hallway to come to the show. And when he saw me, it was kind of cool because it was the first time that a guy ever got really quiet but just continued smiling and looking at me and was basically latching on to every word I said. He's like, can you hypnotize me? I was like, well, you have a leg situation, but we can work around it. And unfortunately, he didn't get deep enough for the show, but I did some stuff with him before and after the show. So he was still ecstatic about the experience. And one of the kids' parents was actually a cop who we actually ended up incorporating into the show for a comedy routine. And everyone seemed to love it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. The whole basement thing has stirred things up here. It's funny. Real Hypnotic D. Drew says, why are people sleepwalking to the basement at night? Did you live in a horror movie? LOL. I think it's probably because as a kid, most people would fear basements or cellars or attics, even if they were refinished and really nice. It's just all the horror movies always had the basement, the cellar, or the
That's true.
or the and then as kids we used to say, what word is scarier, the basement or the cellar? I don't know.
Cellar.
Cellar.
Cellar sounds creepy. It sounds like there's
Cellar.
already skeletons down there with chains.
Cellar. Dreamy Butterfly too says, once had a whole conversation with the family with the eyes wide open. Really amazing.
That's crazy.
Really
I used to have a friend who actually used to sleep with his eyes open. It was weird.
That's like a cat almost does, right? One eye open. This sounds like gave goosebumps, to be honest. Stay out of the basement.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That is funny. And Juanita in South Africa says, thank goodness we don't really have basements in South Africa. And Jennifer hated her basement. That might be why she was attracted to the basement when she was sleeping.
Interesting. Well, it's also interesting because I think that goes along with phobias, which hypnotherapy can help people over, because a lot of phobias come from irrational thought patterns regarding a topic. And hypnotherapy, when it comes to phobias, usually hypnotherapy is first used to figure out subconsciously where that root phobia comes from, like what childhood past trauma or maybe what movie or what negative idea got in your head, and then to locate that first, figure out why it's there, and then to help you over it. I personally have never really had much of a issue with basements. The main thing that scared me growing up was I watched The Ring, and I had a mirror in my downstairs bathroom that represented and looked a lot like the mirror in the movie The Ring. And that girl coming out of the TV scared the bejeebus out of me. And so I didn't go to the bathroom for like a month.
You didn't, huh?
that's where my that's the main childhood trauma I have, just bathroom mirror.
That's it. What about an attic? Would that
we had attics, but I just never had a natural interest, I guess, to explore mine personally. I used to have conversations with my eyes. Interesting. That's crazy cool, though. I'm actually intrigued by that. That's cool.
I like the way you worded that. I just never naturally had an interest to explore mine, the attic.
I never really thought
You
about
never
it.
were sent up there to get get the Christmas tree,
No,
get the decorations. Yeah.
ours was actually in the garage attic. I actually, during the winter of all times, my parents were like, go up there and build an attic. And I went up above my garage and I actually built a floor of an attic and everything. And we stored the Christmas stuff and Halloween stuff and everything up above the garage. And that wasn't creepy. I thought that was cool for some reason or another.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think I've ever been in a house attic, honestly, now that I think about it.
That's cool. That's cool. The Ring is creepy.
It is. I don't like it.
What about The Exorcist?
What about it?
Well, you almost did the Linda Blair head thing. You almost did it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He's gonna spin around in the chair. And remember, he did say he vomits when he gets nervous. So
I have to be way more anxious, though. Thankfully,
as she did, right?
I'm trying to lower that. Let's not say we did. Yeah, let's
Right.
do that one.
Right. Exactly. It's really cool. Can you hypnotize yourself?
Yeah, like I said, I've done self-hypnosis for anxiety and a bunch of different things. When I actually, not only anxiety, but when I'm on long tours at night and I have to keep driving, one time, years and years ago, I started this thing called a hypno high. I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory. And I was driving down a mountain one time going to a show, and I was really, really tired, and I wanted to laugh, and I wanted to be more awake. So I hypnotized myself with my eyes open, because I'm going like 40, 50, 60 miles an hour in this deserted little area of whatever state I was in, going to a show. And I remember thinking, I'm not really energized. I want to be energized. What helps energy? Laughing. So I hypnotized myself. And by the time I get down to the bottom of the hill and I'm going on the rest of the road, I experience a hypno high. And I look at the lights, and the lights, I managed to make them funny. And every light I pass on the street just starts having me burst out in hysterical laughter. And I would have looked like a crazy person, anyone like driving by or anyone in the back seat of my car, because I'm just there like, like, oh my. There's nothing there except the street lights, but I hypnotized myself, and that actually woke me up and kept me awake for the rest of the ride.
I'm sure it did. That is cool. You know, what's really interesting is sometimes, when you're driving and, you're going along on a highway or whatever, maybe you go over a bridge or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, it's almost as if you just came out of like being, asleep for 2 seconds or whatever it is. Like you're looking at the road, and here comes the exit, and you don't remember the last 10 minutes of the drive. You're like, you don't remember the bridge you just went over. You don't remember those exits you just passed, because your mind was so focused on something else, or just completely brought away from, which really should be the urgency of the drive and paying attention to all the cars and everything that you're doing. I always found that fascinating, how we can do that, how we can drive, not get in an accident, and we're sort of like removed in some way, yet at the same time, we're driving the car, we're sort of focused but unfocused in some strange way, and we don't remember the last 5 minutes of the drive. What do you think's happening there?
That's called highway hypnosis. It's actually very common, and I do it way too often. I'm very naturally, and this is, I was actually becoming self-conscious as you're talking, because I realize I'm kind of doing what I'm about to explain.
I've done it, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't remember the last 6 minutes. I went over that bridge, and normally going over that bridge, you have to pay attention and you have to be focused. How did I go over that bridge without even remember or being focused on the bridge?
Yeah. So for me, and this is why I've been moving around all episode, is because I'm very ADHD. I feel the need to move. It's also the reason I run 2 businesses from home, because I feel like I have to do something. So sorry for anyone I drive insane doing this.
I never heard it as, highway hypnosis. The first time I heard it that way.
It's called highway hypnosis because your mind is focused on something else. And as an ADHD person, I'm always thinking about other things. And the reason why you still don't get in an accident and you usually drive safely is, think about this. Think about your heartbeat right now. Think about your breathing right now, or the clothes touching your skin. None of those three things were things that probably any of you were thinking about beforehand because they're just naturally happening. And as far as the heartbeat and the breathing, that's something that your subconscious is always controlling. So you don't have to consciously think about that. And as a result, when you are consciously distracted on something, your subconscious knows what you're supposed to be doing and how to keep you safe while doing it. And so it does. It will just take control. That is, your subconscious is the autopilot because it knows what it's supposed to do.
It really is amazing. What's unusual is the lack of memory of doing it. You can't recall it. You can't like call it up and say, let's go back and rewind and remember. It's happened. You did it. You drove, and that's it. Is there any danger to it, or you're pretty much under control?
I mean, assuming no one's been in a major accident or anything because of it, I haven't really heard of many issues with it. I think it's a natural thing that we all, especially people who drive, let alone for a living, experience pretty regularly.
Merlin says truck drivers do it a lot.
Yeah,
probably,
especially truck drivers because they, kind of like me, they have to drive so many miles for so long. So off the top of my head, I haven't heard anything super bad about it, and I haven't personally experienced anything. And you're actually the first person to ask that, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have to study that tomorrow.
I've given you some homework. Well, to me, it's all so tied together. The incredible work that you do with some of the things that happen in our daily lives, like this, highway hypnosis. Now we actually finally have a term to it that I didn't know was a term, and the sleepwalking when you were kids, and sleepwalking to places that you would never have done. You wouldn't have volunteered to go to the basement, or wouldn't have said the curse words that you said when you were
right.
And then they're like, are you really sleeping or are you not? We'll discuss this in the morning.
It's a weird phenomenon, but that's why I like hypnotic phenomena or phenomena in general, because it's something you got to look into. And I like mysterious things. I like things I don't immediately understand. That's why I got into hypnosis. That's why I got into magic.
Well, Drew says I must have hypnotized for all of his relationships because he doesn't remember them.
Well played, sir.
Yeah, that's.
I always tell people magic is to get the girls, hypnosis is to keep them.
I was going to say, is that being hypnotized, or is that selective memory?
And then there's that part.
Tell us about that.
But what?
No, not selective hearing, selective memory. There is such a thing, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why certain people, when they have traumatic experiences, that's why they end up going, honestly, to hypnotherapists or hypnotists in general, because phobias, where does the basement thing come from? Go to a therapist, figure it out, get hypnotized, look in the subconscious, and figure out what have you consciously blocked out without knowing it, that your subconscious still has in the background. Because honestly, our lives are run based on the subconscious. Our thoughts, our feelings, our fears, our habits are all subconscious. And the habits we have, whether you're a smoker, non-smoker, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, whatever vice, whatever habit you have, whatever addiction you have, it was all a conscious thing that happened first enough times to become a subconscious habit. And that's what habits are. They're subconscious things that you consciously did enough in repetition for a certain reason, a certain situation, that created a subconscious habit. And that's why it can be hard to overcome. People go, oh, well, why can't I overcome this in 1 or 2 sessions? You spent way more sessions than that just getting into the situation. So my mom's always said I had selective, mine too.
So, well, my father has always said that with my mother too. When she would say, same name, Jim. Jim, did you hear what I said? He would say, no, I didn't, because I'm not hearing high frequency sounds.
I'm going to use that in my future relationship.
The high frequency sounds is funny. The things I tell you.
Thank you for the out on that one.
That's it. With his Irish humor, of course, my dad. What's really interesting too is some people may see some of this for entertainment value, and then others are looking for it for peace, solace, for improving their health, their mental state. There's a lot of different variables. When you look at your body of work, John, do you see it more for the entertainment value, the ooh, the ah, the incredible, the amazement, or are you hoping to and trying to reach people at a deeper level that's longer lasting and maybe makes improvements and leaves some positivity and inspiration in their lives?
So I used to do hypnotherapy years ago. My main thing was I started getting a lot of clients that were coming from a psychiatrist. Then they were all relatively heavily medicated. And so they always came in looking like the soul was gone from their eyes. And they would leave the session feeling better and looking better. But then I would feel like my soul was gone from my entire body. And that's when I began realizing from firsthand experience of doing hypnotherapy, energy is real and energy is exchangeable. And before then, I was just kind of like, energy, whatever. But then that's what taught me about energy exchange. So for me, I think I just ended up going right back to entertainment, which I didn't stop doing at the time. It's just I start more heavily focusing strictly on that because I got energy from that. I didn't feel like I was having energy taken away. I actually got a performer's high from that. I felt better from that and also paid really well. And then I've actually developed, and I'm currently tweaking a brand new show called Limitless that enables me to run a show different than most every other hypnotist is doing right now. And I decided to actually end it with a section at the very end that specifically helps the volunteers, not the audience, but the volunteers who chose to get hypnotized and got hypnotized. It helps them subconsciously overcome whatever mental, psychological, subconscious barriers, blocks, or hurdles they're currently facing, so that way they can finally achieve the desired life they want. They can finally achieve that one goal that they've been wanting to do for days, months, years, or whatnot. So even though I've walked away from most of hypnotherapy personally, I've decided to incorporate it in a sense in my new show because I still would like to help people, even though if you think about it, stress in and of itself and anxiety in and of itself, when you're hypnotized, and I get everyone who gets hypnotized report this back to me as true, hypnosis in and of itself, because it's relaxation, the process of getting hypnotized helps relax you and is very therapeutic in and of itself. But that's why I decided, well, why not just double that basic relaxation of inducing them into that and then having them have fun with it for an hour with their imagination and finish it with a more therapeutic, focused ending and finale. So not only do they get relaxed, not only are their stress and anxiety levels lowered, not only do they have amazing time for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, but then they end with something that hopefully helps them achieve something that they've been wanting to achieve for a very long time, and it helps kind of encompass everything in one show.
That's really, really cool. You had mentioned too that with everything that's going on where we can't be in venues, we can't be in big places, auditoriums, or really even technically together necessarily without the social distancing and all the other things we have to do to be safe and healthy and all, that you've been doing a lot of things online. You're actually able to facilitate doing this work online. Tell us how that works, how you're able to do the work online. Most people would think you have to be in the room with them. You got to feel the energy, feel the vibe, and that this would be sort of a filter, a wall, would be in the way. So how do you get beyond that and actually achieve all of this through technology as opposed to being with them in the room?
So like I said earlier, as long as you can hear my voice, I can accomplish hypnotizing you for therapy, or as again I just said, primarily for comedy hypnosis. So when me and Hypnotic D actually decided to join forces and hold our first virtual hypnosis show back when the pandemic started, we just got as many people from the public that want to get hypnotized onto a Zoom call, and we just both did the introduction. I did the main induction, and then we just switched on and off who gave routines when throughout about a 70-minute period. But it's a lot about being able to read body language, because that's going to tell you, are they hypnotized or are they not? Because if someone's hypnotized, they have different body language than someone who's not hypnotized. And so it's funny when people are like, oh, hypnosis is fake, because Dave Ellman wrote a book called Hypnotherapy, where he talks about his life experience going to doctors and therapists and sex therapists and psychiatrists and whatnot, and teaching them hypnosis for medical and therapeutic uses, and how there are certain things that the body undergoes that you can't consciously fake, like your eyes glaze over, your face flushes, and just offhand, like, I don't know anyone, and I've tried, now that I know those things, I've tried. It's very difficult, if at all possible, to even consciously fake those two things to convince the hypnotist that you are hypnotized. So that, along with, like, for example, if I'm on a stage show and I see someone like this, they might be hypnotized, but not as hypnotized as someone like this. And that's very obvious body language that they're very relaxed because they're slumped in their chair like they're sleeping. And we use the word sleep, which means relax. So being able to read body language, Drew and I were able to tell who was hypnotized, who was not. And eventually we actually got everyone hypnotized. And so it was a matter of just guiding them through the experience, basic relaxation, and then giving them basic psychology tests to see if they were hypnotized. And if they were, then take them down deeper, do another test, take them deeper, and then just do the actual show. And that's basically the same thing with hypnotherapy, I would suppose. Same thing. And really quick, not to interrupt, and I apologize for this. Can I run really quick for a minute or two, and I'll be right back? Take a quick break. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Here's a question you could think about when you run off from Juanita.
Okay.
What happens when you do not bring someone out of hypnosis? Does it wear off?
Oh, it's like Office Space. They're stuck forever. It's great. No, I'm just kidding. I'll be right back with that answer.
That's a teaser for when he comes back. He'll let you know. So hang in there, Juanita in South Africa. So how's everybody enjoying this? See, he just did a disappearing act too. He does that as well. But he did it differently. He did the traditional way of disappearing, which was an illusion. Now, my question to you is, did he actually leave the room, or is he still there? And is he looking right at you? Is he smiling? Is he smiling at you like you might be seeing comedian George Burns? Now, am I really holding George Burns, who played God in Oh My God, a television comedian? Is this really George Burns in my hand, or are you just imagining George Burns? What about, if I think it up, do I really have the IG Magini bottle in my hand? Is Jeannie really, is Barbara Eden, is Jeannie really in there? I don't know. Do you see her? Really cool. Is he there? What do you think? Theater of the mind, right? Do you really see Gilligan from Gilligan's Island? I see him. I think I see him. Do you see him? You let me know. So it is great, isn't it? Christine says, never was hypnotized. I think we're not allowed to happen. You must be open. I could not tell all those shows. I went into college, those that were racked. So Christine says she's never been hypnotized. What I was telling them is that I was asking them if you really were gone. Did you do a disappearing act? Were you gone, or do they really still see you sitting there? And not everybody was sure if you were still sitting in that chair or if you really had disappeared into another room.
The answer is yes.
To all of the above. And then I said, do you really see me holding comedian George Burns in my hand, or is he not really there? And they didn't have the answer to that either. I said, do you see me holding Gilligan from Gilligan's Island in my hand? And they weren't sure. It started to get them to think.
There's actually, I heard a story about a philosophy teacher who had an exam for a class, college class, and he put a chair in the middle of the stage, and then he went back to his desk and he said, all right, tell me why that chair exists. And he sits down, and about 30, 60 seconds later, one student, everyone starts writing their paper, one student walks down, puts his paper face down on the desk, and walks out of the room. And the teacher's like, do you think you're done? And the student just walks out. And the professor looks at it, and the only thing that's written on the entire paper is what chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wow.
That's amazing.
Okay, to answer the question, if
look what Katie says. You didn't leave the room. She
feel him staring into our souls.
Francis took a guess.
Yeah, not gonna lie. I was wondering if anyone was gonna call me out on that.
And I'm a classy guy. I would never say where he went. No, but inquiring minds, I guess, and Dream Butterfly. We may never know. But that question, let's see. I'll bring that back. We'll scroll back here. Kind of good. That she hasn't been hypnotized because says you need to be open. She doesn't think. She thinks she can control allowing it to happen. Can one do that?
So there's a lot of different, as we know, there's college, or not college, but there's comedy stage hypnosis, there's hypnotherapy, The funny thing is that those are only two forms of hypnosis.
Right.
There's conversational, there's covert, there's this, there's so many different variations of it. And what I'm hoping to teach either late this year or probably in spring of 2021 on HypnoKick is covert hypnosis, how you can hypnotize someone without them being consciously aware, since the process of hypnosis is to communicate with the subconscious mind, something that no one really digs deep into, I guess, on a conscious level usually. So you can be hypnotized without being aware. I usually just refer to it as conversational or covert hypnosis, and I've done it many times in different places for various reasons. I used to actually start one of my shows, when I first came out with the New Age hypnosis or New Age hypnotist JON WAYES. That show was called Cliche, and I actually started it by doing a demonstration every show. I'd call out the biggest skeptic in the room. I said, "Come forward. I'm going to hypnotize you." And there were one or two times I got really cheeky with it, and I would place little bets, like I bet you a cookie or a pizza or whatever that I can hypnotize you. Like, you can't hypnotize me. All right, well, if you're the biggest skeptic in the room, come up. And I did a demonstration that after asking the creator of the demonstration, I'm not allowed to showcase or call my own or anything, but I'll just say it's about a 30-second demonstration, and it directly communicates with the subconscious mind by distracting the conscious mind with a very obvious, easy question that everyone is able to answer. Mm-hmm. And the fun fact is, because they're a skeptic, they're going to say no. And because the question, I think I can say the question. The question is, the very summarized version of it is, have you ever been hypnotized? But the action that's going on while talking and eventually asking that question causes their body to actually physically change an aspect of itself by the time they answer it. So then they say no, and I go, stop. Mm-hmm. And their whole body just stops.
Yeah.
And I look at the audience and I explain what just happened, and the audience goes, oh. And then the person always goes, huh. I go, that's hypnosis. Mm-hmm. You can go back to your seat now. Not scary, not manipulative, not blackmail. And then at that point, everyone becomes aware, okay, well, he just hypnotized the skeptic, so it obviously works. He didn't do anything embarrassing, and it wasn't creepy.
Right. And
that kind of helps invite even more intrigue, or sometimes that even makes other skeptics go, well, maybe I do want to try now.
Exactly. Jennifer was asking, telekinesis, of course. Can people, by looking at things, move them with their minds?
So telekinesis, me and one of my exes actually used to obsessively talk about this, because she was convinced one day, she was looking at a pencil on a desk, and she was doing a brain activity of some sort, and she was convinced that it moved. I don't know. I know as a illusionist, I have created psychic-like connections, and I have seemingly moved things without touching them. It's said that we never use all of our brain power at once. Is it possible? I personally would love to think so, and think that it's possible, because my company motto is live limitless. Mm-hmm. And that includes opening your mind up to possibilities. Here's the thing. I don't think science has completely disproved it, because science has even admitted that that in and of itself, as science, mm-hmm. it doesn't know everything about our brain, and we probably haven't accessed all of our brain. So I think my best educated guess is, or answer would be, it's possible, and I'd love to think so.
Absolutely. I'm sure that one of the exes probably said you made the earth move too.
No comment.
Yeah. Notice when he doesn't comment, he takes a drink. He does that perfectly timed.
I'm very well trained.
That's it. Very smooth. Everybody loving it. They're saying this is amazing interview, great conversation, very interesting. They're loving it. Merlin is asking, have you ever worked with the police force? Have you ever been called upon to help with a situation, a scenario, or a case or anything?
Merlin, I think you're my favorite person of this hour, because that is something that I've wanted for a very long time. And interestingly, I used to be friends with a police officer in my old neighborhood years and years ago. And I remember one of the few times I came over his house, I was getting into escapology before I was into hypnosis, I was still doing the magic and mind reading thing. And I, for a while, got into escapology, chains and cuffs and everything. And I went over to his house one day. I was like, hey, bring your whole family over here. He had a big family. And I was like, bring your whole family over here. And I had him handcuff me behind my back. And it wasn't minutes long, but I also know it was longer than a few seconds. But within a very short period of time, I was like, hey, I asked him something about the cuffs. Like, how long does it take the average person to get out of cuffs? Or how long before they give up trying to get out of the cuffs? Or this and that, asking questions about the cuffs. He goes, this, that, and giving me answers. And he says, why? I go, I think you need better cuffs. And I hand him his cuffs back. And I still remember him saying, up to date. And I also showed him a thumb cuff thing I got that I think European police used to have back in the day. And his response was, if I ever catch you and have to arrest you, I'm going to make you wait in your car and get the entire police force to come and help me arrest you. Because, well, one, it's a conflict of interest. You're my neighbor and I really like you and you're great, but I clearly can't do this alone. I've never seen anyone become hypnotized, so obviously never really thought about that process before. Now I'm curious about it because you've shared your story with us. It's so here's the fun fact. It's ridiculously easy to hypnotize let me edit that. It's ridiculously easy to do hypnosis. Hypnotizing yourself might be a bit difficult because I know some people are very analytical. I know one of the viewers, if she's still here, when I first met her, she was a very analytical person because she's scientifically minded. I managed to find ways around that too. You just have to learn each person's personality, like we talked about earlier, learning approach. But hypnosis in and of itself is a very basic process. There's the induction, which is literally just telling people to close their eyes, breathe in, breathe out, focus on the sound of my voice, and then you just give a calming script. And then there's the deepener, where you're usually just counting down the classic, 10 to 1 type thing, or 20 to 1, or whatever it is you choose. And then there's the actual script part of the script, which is either for comedy, you're going to give silly suggestions, or therapy, you're going to help them with whatever they're doing. And then the transdetermination, which is literally just saying, hey, I'm going to count from 5 to 1. And as we count up, you're going to come up out of trance. But it's much less magical and mystical than people think it is. But I think seeing it happen physically brings the mystique and the intrigue to everyone. And that, again, like Anthony Jackman says, the induction is the sexy part. And seeing everything around it is very intriguing and awe-inspiring. But the truth is, I'm not special. I don't have a degree. I paid people a lot of money to teach me this stuff, which I literally give away for free on Hypnokick. I literally have a 10-page ebook that teaches the basic 4 steps and what to say word for all of them. So literally anyone can hypnotize, family, friends, or colleagues for, oh yeah, my God, that was so many years ago. Wow, I can't believe you found that. Okay, wow, good job.
We do our research here at the show, yeah.
You do. That was so many years ago. That was when I very first started.
Cool shot.
Hypnokick. That was right outside a bar I just performed at that evening that I actually live pretty close to now. That was a very interesting night. I was surrounded by a lot of people that I wasn't sure were going to take it very well. And I ended up hypnotizing. And I can tell you that I think that might have been one of my first bar shows. And that made me realize bar shows are fun.
Yeah.
And I again, another idea stolen from, I think, Facebook, possibly. I went outside and I was talking with the person who encouraged me to come there and then promoted me for that event. And that was his wife. And I was like, hey, I have this idea. And I explained it to her. And I was like, I think this would be really cool for a promo shot. And they're like, well, you did the hypnosis. You didn't hypnotize us. You're not as creepy as we thought you were.
Yeah.
You seem like a cool guy. So we'll help you out and give you a cool promo shot. And that's how that picture came to be.
So what is the Kickstart audio training then?
That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But it was basically the verbal version of what Hypnokick's 10-page ebook is now, which is basically, hey, here are the safety precautions you need to give anyone that you're going to hypnotize before hypnotizing them to make sure that they're mentally, physically, and emotionally safe. And then this is the first step, second step, third step, fourth step, and here's what to say and in what order for each of these steps. So that way, not only do you go in safely, but you're able to give them a very basic relaxation experience. And that's what it is basically just getting someone into hypnosis to experience the very basic experience, which is a minute or two of mental physical relaxation and bringing them out, because even when I do full-on one-on-one paid mentorships, and Hypnotic D did this with me years ago in Chicago, the first thing I tell my students to do is do the basic stuff, because once you do the basic stuff, it's an introduction, and a lot of people don't understand or are skeptical or scared of hypnosis. So if you do the introduction and help relax them, the skeptics realize that it's not mind control or anything that they thought. The people who are scared realize there's nothing to be scared of. So it kind of helps bring everyone together by giving everyone what they want, especially right now in our climate, which is relaxation and stress and anxiety control. And once they get that, then they go, oh, this is like, and a lot of people say, oh, this is like meditation or self-meditation or something like that. And I say, that's all it is. Now the question is, do you want to go further? Do you want to become more relaxed? Do you want to see what we can do and how creative your imagination is? But so the audio is basically, here's how to introduce someone by giving them a basic relaxation experience. And then at the time there was an upsell and then an upsell and an upsell, but now it's just all in one concise members area where everything is just thrown together and say, hey, do this basic stuff first. If that works, go to here. If that works, go to here.
Cool stuff. And Dreamy Butterfly says, I still have that ebook on my laptop, and it's an interesting read. And Marcia Lyon in Massachusetts, this is a big one.
Ooh.
Yeah. See what she says there?
I was hypnotized by an anesthesiologist. I should not have quit school. Anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
And she said not to speak to anyone while she left the room. A nurse started asking questions, and I thought, is this a test? If I answered her I was not hypnotized, I did not speak. The anesthesiologist came back and told her to leave me alone. The procedure was done with no anesthesia. I remember everything in detail. That is awesome. Wow. And I remember...
That's amazing.
Actually hearing on World Hypnotism Day years ago, I remember hearing someone actually gave themselves self-hypnotherapy because they had to do a foot surgery, and they cut this guy's heel open, and he said, cut it up, or was it, he said, don't cut it open until I give you the signal, which is like a this or something. Yeah. And he laid on the table, and they waited a few minutes, and then he gave the hand signal, and he said that they opened him up, they cut him, they did the surgery, and he said that he felt no pain. And last year I was actually hired as a consultant to a couple in Indianapolis to teach the husband how to hypnotize his wife for a natural childbirth. And so we spent a few weeks and a few months kind of going over the basics. And at one point in the consultation, he goes, I just feel like there's something more I need. And I'm like, I'm not going to say his name out loud, but I was like, buddy, this is literally all it, like, this is what you paid for. All the stuff you saw me do on YouTube that made you want to hire me for this. This is the basic principles and building blocks that stuff is built off of. If you just do this and read this script in this order, you're going to get the results you want. And it took him a few weeks, but he eventually started getting to the level that I had been with his wife, who was in obviously growing more pregnant and getting closer to a due date. And he was eventually able to, I think, help her. Some stuff came up in my personal life, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to be there for their actual pregnancy, but they did say there was a significant change between when they first sought me out and as they got closer to the pregnancy. She definitely began to understand the power of her mind and actually feeling the effects of what could be done under hypnosis.
Speaking of the mind, I love this cool logo.
Yeah, that took forever to find someone who could do that. That was actually my martial arts teacher's son when I was in New York for Christmas. I think I was alone. Parents were doing a celebration in Arizona, and I was talking to him because he was a graphic designer at the time, and I was telling him, I was like, I want a brain because I'm like a psychological illusionist, but even if I'm a hypnotist, that's still very psychological. It's still brain oriented, but I want my initials in there somehow. And eventually we came up with that, and I was very happy with it. And there's also a subliminal message in that. I'm not going to say what it is because I use it in my magic shows. But at the very end of my shows, when I have that banner up with that logo on it, it actually helps one of my end of show finale predictions. And when I point it out to people, and I like the fact that I'm saying this so nonchalantly and so vaguely, because now people are going to go crazy and wonder what it is.
Yeah, what it is. That's right.
But it's a cool little nuance at the end of the show that people don't really recognize until the show's over. But yeah, that was I was pretty happy with that. And then I was eventually able to find someone who I also could do an animation of it for my YouTube videos, where it was the exact outline we just saw, but they had digital blue neurons going through the veins of the brain, and then they had the brain pulsate and explode, and the neurons came together to spell out "Live Limitless."
Very cool, very cool. Drew said that he had to do self-hypnosis when he woke up during surgery.
I vaguely remember that.
Ooh, waking up during a surgery, I mean. And then you have to call upon yourself to...
And that's the thing. Like, if you understand, which unfortunately a lot of people don't, and that's kind of part of the reason I like teaching, especially to the younger generations, our mind, whatever life you're living now, is created by your mind. Your mind is literally manifesting whatever it is you want. And it frustrates some people because some people unfortunately don't live the life they want or lifestyle they desire. But the truth is, everything starts within here. And like I said earlier, if you can train yourself for positive thinking and to be able to understand how to achieve certain things, then you can get to certain milestones in your life and start building on those points. And knowing that you can call upon yourself and manifest a reality into this 3D world. I mean, I did it. I went from being a college dropout to and having family and friends tell me hypnosis wasn't a real job and I need to go flip a burger because that's a real job, to now they ask me when my next show is, because I believed in myself enough and tapped into my own potential enough that I was able to bring my vision into life. And now, thanks to Jim Masters and everyone else who brought this together, be on this show and tour and do what I love, that was a manifestation of my mind. And the sooner that we can realize that we control our lives based on our mind, I think the easier it will be for a lot of us to control certain aspects, such as waking up during surgery. And Drew, you're awesome, by the way. I love the fact that we met on a social app years ago, on a live streaming social app, and that we've been friends, and I've been able to teach you so much that you could actually do that for yourself during surgery, or that other people have done it in doctors' offices as well. Because the truth is, the power of the mind is way more powerful than most of us are giving credit for. I don't know if this is true what I'm about to say, but I heard from a Lyft driver about a year and a half ago that supposedly the reason people get addicted to drugs like cocaine, for example, is because your brain already produces the chemicals, or at least some of the chemicals, that you get a high from when you take cocaine. When you do that and ingest it and take it in succession in a short period of time consistently, your body thinks it no longer needs to produce those good feel-good chemicals you could get from doing something else, because now you're taking it from an external source, and it begins basically shutting down and no longer producing that chemical. And he told me that that's why people get addicted to drugs. So knowing that our brain can produce similar feel-good chemicals doing something else, why aren't more of us studying the brain and psychology and trying to tap into that for our everyday life, let alone to make the life that we want? That's my biggest question. And I mean, I still have some improvement to do on my own life in that sense too, but I think that was one of the biggest things that ever stuck with me while riding Uber or Lyft, was that conversation, realizing like that is legitimately a real thing, and that's something I think more of us need to look into.
That is really true, and I think very eloquently said. We have natural endorphins, which is really, really true. And there's things that we can do, like you say, and obviously you love teaching and mentoring others and showing them the way too, so they can call upon some of these things we're talking about tonight, which is really absolutely amazing. And Christine says this is really an interesting topic area that we all should really learn about. Christine also said, one of my surgeries 4 years ago, I was up near the end and was trying to tell them, but I could not figure out how to talk, but could hear everything being said. All the surgeons, nurses. Yeah.
I think there was a movie on that. It was with, Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars, and it was also, I think, Jessica Alba. And I think there was a point where he was awake, but he couldn't talk, and he couldn't communicate. So
Like
that's
being
kind
in like a coma thing in a way.
yeah, that's what that kind of reminds me of. And in terms of, I think more of us, one lady who said more of us need to look into this. The unfortunate thing that I found is when I reached out to my old university and I was like, hey, can I talk about hypnosis during psychology because I know a lot of universities mention hypnosis in their psychology courses. And the professor, the doctor, invited me to lunch one day, and we talked for about an hour or so, and I told him what I knew. And then I found out that day, as well as the day I went in to guest teach, because he eventually gave me permission, is that most colleges, let alone high schools, will teach the theory and the history behind hypnosis, but not exactly what it is. Like, for example, like I said earlier, most people confuse hypnosis with hypnotic phenomena. They think the mental and physical relaxation is actually the goofy stuff on stage. And I'm always like, no, that's hypnotic phenomena, which is a very deep version of hypnosis. Like, schools don't even teach that I'm aware of. That's something that I teach that students are like, oh, like that's not in the textbook, or, you know, we didn't hear that before. So they teach the theory and the history, which is good. And I teach part of that at Hypnotic too, but I think it should be implemented at least in that section of psychology. Like, what is it? Why does it work? What's possible with it? Because I think then we could then implement that in the education system, which I think would be super important to help people improve their lives, especially now that mental health is something that is so wildly talked about and an okay thing to talk about, which is awesome. This is, I think, the time to start including those nuances of educational information and saying, hey, this is what's possible. Now let's talk about ways that we can implement this to improve ourselves and then those around us, because it's very difficult to help the world when we can't help ourselves. And that's a very therapeutic thing that a lot of people have heard, but it's true. So I think that the sooner more of us can be taught that, the more, or the sooner that a lot of us can begin improving our own lives for whatever reason we need to or want to, and then spread that wealth of knowledge and hopefully positivity and life-changing stuff to others.
It's so beautifully said, and so absolutely true. I hope everybody was listening to that, because we need that more than ever. Marcia says, I think anything to do with the brain makes people sometimes uncomfortable too, so they steer away from it. It's like that. The three things they probably steer away from is that, death, and colonoscopies. They don't discuss them. They don't discuss them.
That's fair. That's fair.
This is actually a very good question, and I was thinking of this as well. And you have alluded to this in certain ways. Is this emotionally draining for you doing this work sometimes?
Not really. I think the worst part about touring is...
Did it used to be, like when you were doing the other form of what you were doing?
Yeah, I think the most draining part for me was always hypnotherapy, just because people are always coming in, and a lot of them have similar issues. Like I said, some of the most popular issues are, weight loss, smoking, and pain management. I dealt a lot with stress and anxiety, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't listen. Even when they pay you for help, they don't always listen and take your advice on certain tools you give them. They're like, well, I came to see you. I'm like, did you use the tool? No. Well, why are you coming back? I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you got to use the tools that we give you, because they're your tools for you. I can't do it for you. If it worked by osmosis, I would charge so much more money and be happier.
Just by using the word osmosis, you can up at least by $100 an hour. I mean.
Right. I mean, certain trigger words, you could probably do a business model around it, but I grew up trying to... one thing I didn't mention in the very beginning was I grew up wondering why things were always so expensive, because I didn't grow up rich or anything by any means. We grew up middle class, sometimes lower middle class. So I grew up like, okay, I'm going to make things cheap and affordable. And for the most part, a lot of what I give is obtainable to the average person that, wants to work for it. And therapy, I used to do for $200. And I know people charging way more than that.
Yeah.
But I think hypnotherapy was probably the most draining for me, just because, and again, that's when I learned about the exchange of energy. If people came in feeling really down or whatnot, I usually felt how they felt at the end. They usually felt great and relieved and better, and I usually felt like, oh my gosh. But I think the only two downsides to touring is depending on how often I have to go or where I have to go, the amount of driving I have to do, because I don't want to drive that much anymore, and my back hurts.
But how about also the mental, do you get sometimes emotionally or mentally wrapped up in what you're experiencing, seeing, and what people are sharing with you? Or you're good at being able to sort of compartmentalize or shut that off? I've asked that question usually a lot of times, not even on this show, but just in regular conversation. of doctors, nurses, firefighters, EMTs, hospice workers, ambulance drivers, everything that they see constantly, first responders, what they see, what they live with, how do they not sort of apply it to their own life or absorb it in or not be able to shut it off without becoming numb to it, because you don't want to not be empathetic, you don't want to not be caring. How do you not how do you separate? Because sometimes I'm sure it gets pretty heavy and emotional sometimes when people share some really incredible things with you.
Yeah, I think thankfully most of the people I deal with now are around my age, maybe a little older, oftentimes younger. But I know leading up till this point in my life, I grew up in a very colorful family, and that's a very vague way to put it, but I think the best descriptional word, or the best descriptive word. So there was very little that surprised me, and I think people were pretty impressed, especially people at least double, if not more, my age that would come in, women or older men, and they would tell me about their marriage, or they would tell me about, something about emotional or physical abuse or whatnot. And it was always either because of something I had experienced in my past or something that I knew from someone very, very close to me, that it was very easy for me to understand and empathize with them. And they're like, well, you don't understand because you're this young. And that kind of irritated me for a few years until I had to just learn to calm down, relax, and understand that some people have expectations. And I do look like a kid. Someone in the beginning of this show said I looked like a little kid. But despite that, they're always impressed to learn, like, to some degree, I understand. And to some degree, I was able to be empathetic. And usually it was always a sense of either I understand because I've been through it, or I say, you're not the only one. And I would give them a vague example of another client I dealt with in terms of hypnotherapy. In terms of hypnosis, an interesting amount of younger generations would come up to me and say, I didn't think I could be hypnotized. I have all these disorders or all this anxiety, all this stress. And they'd come up to me, and sometimes they would get really, really emotional and start crying, and I would hug them, and I'm like, you're not the only one. And it's like, hey, you have social anxiety. I had social anxiety to the point where I threw up after my first show. You're stressed. I was always stressed, growing up. Like, I get it. Like, that's part of why I do what I do now, because I learned how to use hypnosis and the power of my mind, along with obviously a good support system to help control and manage and level that out. So there has been quite a bit that's come, but thankfully a lot of it is usually surrounding topics that I've heard before, I've dealt with before, or I know other people personally that I've dealt with and how they managed it. So it helps me kind of conversationally be empathetic to them without fully absorbing that negativity for myself. So it kind of helps me kind of put it on my shoulders so they know I understand them and I got them. And then as they walk away, I can just kind of like let it fall off, and it doesn't really affect me negatively, thankfully.
Which is really, really important. And again, it's you've learned by doing and by living life, which again, you can really relate to people, through these various scenarios because of having experienced these things in life yourself, which I think is really a cool thing and a beautiful thing as well. Really interesting here. Somebody asks, what do you think of Dejavu?
It's
Other than that being that song, that Dionne Warwick song, Dejavu.
yeah. No, I don't know. And it's something I think about probably at least once a year. I wonder, like, is it real? Is it this or is that? I've heard a theory that it's something that we've seen in our dreams, that like dreams are predicting what's going to happen in our life, or maybe something really does happen. I think my most recent version of Deja Vu was about a month ago. I had a really minor party at my house, and I had one of my friends from martial arts over, and everyone had left the party. And I was just sitting there watching YouTube videos with him on my Xbox, and I was going through a video and I saw one thumbnail, and I was like, huh. And I just heard him talking in the background. I just turned around, I'm like, this is deja vu. And for like a full 15 to 30 seconds, it was just everything was deja vu. And he's like, oh, that's crazy. How long does it last? I'm like, you asked that last time too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I think is the good summarized question. And I do tend to go on rants, so hopefully people don't get too annoyed. But I don't know, but it's interesting, and I can't wait to see if science or psychology is ever able to figure it out, because I'm pumped.
Do you ever walk into a room and say, I feel like I've been here before? Or you meet somebody and you feel like you've known them for, 20 years?
I have I've met people that are very easily. How do I phrase that? Because I realize my English is going terribly wrong now. There are people that I've met that feel like I can very easily connect with, and it feels like no matter what I say or do, they just understand.
It's automatic, yeah.
And it's easier in that case to draw closer. And that's also a psychological thing, and that's also something used in hypnosis and hypnotherapy. It's called rapport. How do you build rapport? You be as understanding and empathetic and connecting as possible. Like, that's part of the reason I think the younger generations look up to me, because I probably look 10 years younger than I am. And I look like I'm supposed to be in college. So when the kids come up to me like, oh, you're so cool, you do this, but you help me over this without even knowing it, because no one knows and side note / rant, because I do that a lot too, my bad. And this was also, I meant to say this in the whole, how do you absorb energy and deal with that? One of the reasons I keep doing what I do, even though it scares me, and this genuinely scares me, I did a hypnosis show for an after prom in South Dakota one year. And then afterward, I want to start doing motivational speeches and get hired for keynote speaking. So I asked the organizer to film a 5-minute motivational speech about bullying. And that would just be one of many topics I could eventually get hired for in the future. And I give that speech. And then after that, all the kids go in the cafeteria and they're eating pizza or whatnot. And one kid remains, and he's in the very back of the bleachers. And he comes down and he says, your show is good, but the speech that you just gave is what resonated with me, because I was thinking about committing suicide this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And no one in that room knew. And he goes, but this one thing, I don't remember what it was, but he said, this one thing you said made me realize that you are older than me and you've already been through that. And seeing you here doing what you do and hearing that speech proves to me that I literally am not alone, and that it will be okay, and that these are the things I need to do to get to where I want to go. And as far as I'm aware, he went on and graduated and now goes to university. But the fact that my one show and then one speech helped save a human life simultaneously scared the absolute heck out of me, but also made me realize that in essence, even though I dislike this phrasing, I am an influencer. And that's when I realized influencers need to be very conscientious and careful about what they're going to say.
I can relate to that. I have found that similarly in my work as well. I've gotten responses to my work over the years where I've received letters and handwritten letters from people who, don't normally write letters about how something I've said did, a show that I was involved in or hosted, or it was on the radio, whatever it is. They were touched, and it changed their lives into a positive direction. And one was a shut-in. She didn't listen to anything other than maybe the news and then what I was doing, and how it made her feel, and how she feels so close. And that's another thing too that happens as a result of the work that we do, because even though you are, as you said, a pretty good introvert, and I think that's been lessening as time has gone on through the work that you do and the interactions you have with people. At the same time, you are a communicator, because if you weren't a communicator, a facilitator, a conduit of energy, things of that nature, you wouldn't be doing the work. So you might not be out there, rah, 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 I'm a communicator, look at me. You do it sort of in a subtle way, which is kind of the way that I do it too. I'm not that up on the mountain, rah, 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 look at me, here we go, come on. I'm much more of an understated communicator, which I think has sometimes more of a long-lasting positive effect, because you're not barreling into the room and saying, here we go, look at me, look at me. You're much more coming into it in a subtle way. And I think that's really cool. So I think it's the fact that you're a communicator and you're living your bliss by doing it, because what's happening is you're evolving and you're figuring things out about yourself and who John is through helping others. And because you've figured certain things out along the way, you're able to help others. So they'll come maybe for the entertainment value, which is awesome and cool, and you have all of that. But then sometimes these other more deeper, like you just described, unplanned scenarios happen where somebody's life is completely flipped the other way to where they're not going to jump off the bridge, or they're not going to do this, or they're going to be less negative or hateful or whatever as a result of your being a communicator, just coming in calmly as the communicator. And I think that's a cool thing.
It is. It's crazy. And I just thought, well, that'll never happen again. And then literally, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 4 years later, I was on a college tour and I was in North Carolina and I did a college show. And then about 6 to 8 college kids came up and hung out with me backstage for a half hour and talked to me about hypnosis. One kid wanted to interview me via email to help him with his comic book character who was a hypnotist so he could make it as realistic as possible. And I started talking about psychology and this and that. And a lot of what I've been talking about here in regards to psychology and how you can use your mind to manifest things. And then I went to Delaware the next day to prepare for my next show in Pennsylvania. And I think it was either the night I got to Delaware or the next morning, sometime within that period, I got an email from one of the kids who said, "Hey, I just want to let you know you had a really good impact on the students." 6 of them had either the next day become a double major and started doubling major in psychology, or completely switched their current major completely to psychology. And I just remember as another moment, I was just like, holy moly, that's crazy. All I did was talk. And I literally changed a timeline for 6 people.
Yeah. That's cool stuff, right?
That is, but I feel super weirded out by that. Like how people feel about hypnosis, I feel about that.
You feel a responsibility?
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. And thankfully I'm older now and I'm much more calm and reserved and less because I used to be very hyper and very, I used to be, I think, more rah-rah or against certain things. And now I'm much more understanding and willing to hear things out and also just kind of empathize. And apparently the empathy can also get to people in a state that helps influence them in a good direction, I guess.
And our world and our society is really lacking empathy right now. So empathy is really, a good way to go because there's a void of empathy. And people are searching for that and they're needing that. They're needing to be heard and they're needing to be, entertained and informed and laugh and all the other cool stuff that comes with it. But deep underneath that, sometimes the reason why they're going for the entertainment, they're going for this, that, and the other is because, they're not so happy with their lives, when they go back home. So empathy is really important.
You said entertainment. How about I entertain you for everyone to see really quick?
That'd be cool. Absolutely.
Figured I'd do a little something for you.
An old soul, Bernadette says. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. I've been told that by a few people, including a psychic, which I think one of the first people that told me that was actually psychic, which I thought was interesting. So here we go. You ready?
We are ready.
So we got 3 colors here. And this is it. Just 1, 2, 3. So the question to you, Jim, is do you want the blue card, the yellow card, or the red card? It's up to you. I'll wait your response.
I would say the blue.
Camera reflects. You want this one?
So that one there, yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to give you one opportunity to change your mind. But I don't want you to think I'm influencing you. This is your choice. You got 3 options. You want to stick with blue or do you want to change your mind?
I'm going to stick with blue. Blue, my favorite color is green, so blue is close to that, so it's closer in tune with my personality. Blue.
That's fair.
I went to blue first.
Okay. When I was growing up, blue is actually also one of my favorite colors. That's not part of the script or show. That's just fact.
That's just what it is, yeah.
But it's interesting because I gave you the option to choose any card you wanted, and then I gave you the option to jump to any other card you wanted, but you kept coming to this one. And it's only interesting because there were only 3 cards to choose from. I asked you if you wanted red, and you didn't want red. I asked you if you wanted yellow, and you didn't want yellow. You will choose this card, Jim, because it's the only one marked on the back saying that you will.
Now that is very cool. That is very cool. I like the smile you have after because it's a cool feeling. Are you on that high now? Because I'm on the high with I'm on the high with I'm on the high with you. Live worldwide. You know, that is cool, isn't it?
I enjoy it. No, I definitely dig performing, especially for people who don't know me. I was definitely one of those people that was performing so much for family and friends growing up that eventually my family got sick of it. So
is that illusion or magic, or how would you define it?
that's a type of mentalism. It's showing you that I've already predicted what you're going to choose before you even know what choices you had and what question you were going to be given.
Everybody says love, love, excellent, cheers. Bernadette also picked the blue. Standing ovations. Oh, yes. That is very cool.
If you want, I can try to do a direct mind reading thing with you right over the screen right now.
That would be cool.
So, like I told you, I travel and I drive a lot. Sometimes I'll fly, but that's usually only if it's like California or something super far away. So I bought this book, Streets of Boston, and it's literally just a book of maps and then street names. Because I thought, well, I quit school, so maybe I should buy a book and try to read it for educational purposes and use some mentalism techniques, use some memory techniques to try to memorize as many of the streets in Boston as possible, because their streets are crazy.
Yeah, it's all like circles and cobblestone and yeah.
And so I was like, what if I could try to memorize this? So that's what I'm going to try to do. And I know the reason I asked you if you want to do this is because I know for some people it's going to be kind of unbelievable. I mean, there's a camera here. I'm just going to ask you to go on good faith that I'm not looking, or I might try to put it over here while I do it, and you can clearly see I'll look down so I can't see it. But Jim, whenever you're ready, and we're going to do the first half of the book, so I want to keep it within the maps section of the book. So whenever you're ready, I just want you to say stop. I'll go through quick or slowly because there's not a lot of pages, but whenever you're ready, Jim, just say stop.
Stop.
All right. So what I want you to do, this basically takes up the whole screen so you can't see me, but trust me, I'm looking down. What I want you to do is just pick out any street name that you want, Jim, anyone that you want, and let me know when you have it.
Can you bring it a little closer so we can see?
Does that help?
Yep, I got the street.
All right. You got it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So just think about if it was a long word or a short word. I like how I start long and then short.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's late.
That's the long and short of it.
This is why you're in show business.
That's it.
You're good at this.
That's it.
Okay, so I want you to do me a quick favor and just let me cheat a little bit.
Sure.
Give me the first letter.
W.
Okay, well, W's never have a short name.
That's true.
It's rarely ever short, so this is definitely going to be a longer one. So it's W, and then obviously I'm guessing there has to be a vowel. Let's go with like the street. So it could either be street, plaza, or whatever at the very end of it. What I want you to do is just think about what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I was describing the different things, street, plaza, or whatever, you didn't nod your head and look at me as if you were confirming one of those things were it. So it is not street. It is not plaza. It is something else because you looked off. So we got that. Gonna say that's avenue. So you're thinking avenue. It's a something. Okay, and the whole holding it back. Okay, that confirms it for me. Thank you for the body language. That helps. So you said it's W.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about the next letter Think about the vowel. Okay, that was really quick, and your eyes went up. So I. Your eyes went to the I.
Mm-hmm. It is I.
So it's either that one or that one. Now I got a 50-50 choice, and I can't screw up. Okay. You know how they say sometimes you should go with your gut, so I'm going to try that.
Yes.
Wilmington Avenue?
That's exactly what it is.
Sweet. Good.
As in Delaware, Wilmington. Yes. Wow.
Good.
That's
Hopefully
amazing.
I don't get lost in Boston. I'm not going to lie. I still struggle with it, though. So I'm hoping to avoid Boston for a while.
Now, there was, a ton of other streets, and there was an interstate that went through. I don't know if it was 495 or 95 that went through.
Yeah,
that.
there's a bunch of different streets, and there's a bunch of different maps of different places.
Wilmington Avenue, yeah.
Thanks for being easy to read, Jim. I appreciate that.
That's the never-ending cup. Is that like a bottomless? Is that like one of those things you get at a diner, a bottomless cup of coffee? It keeps refilling.
I can neither confirm nor deny that accusation.
You must have a midget over there that's refilling it for you out of camera's view.
I've never heard that one before, but go away, Steve.
That's
we don't give him attention. It builds up his ego way too quick.
Absolutely, absolutely. He'd want to jump on your lap and wave. True,
Yeah.
true.
No, that's not an go. Stop. Don't encourage.
Damn. That is funny. Holy crap, I thought of the same exact street. You're amazing. Wow. That is really cool. That is amazing.
Awesome.
Great show. Thanks, guys.
Thank
really
you for
amazing.
tuning in, Kathleen. Thank you, Marcia.
That really, yeah.
That face.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Wow. This has really been cool to listen to and watch. And like you said, to be able to do that, Wilmington Avenue, to be able to do that in this situation where you're holding up a book to a camera and I'm on the other side of this camera here.
It's weird.
And there's miles in between us, you're there in the Midwest and I'm on the East Coast, and yet all of this transpires. It's actually cool, right?
Yeah,
It's
no, I
actually
mean, like I said, when
that's
you
also
initially
cool
moved-
too. What
when
you
you-
just said. Have you
What I said.
noticed? And I'm somebody who studies words. I'm like a wordsmith too. And there's things I have, and you probably love this stuff too. It's all psychology. It's all everything. There's two things that I noticed that, and I posted this once, just randomly threw this out there on Facebook. It's just an observation because I'm always observing life and everything, and that's why I think I'm a host and a communicator. I said I noticed that a lot of people now, all of a sudden, there's this shift where everybody says, you didn't say it, but everybody says no problem instead of saying you're welcome or my pleasure. It's no problem, no problem, no problem, no worries, no problem. And I'm like, I just threw it out there. I'm like, wow, I always said, you're welcome or sure or you got it or even just my pleasure. I tend to say that a lot, my pleasure. Because I think when I say my pleasure, somehow the other person, it clicks with them and they like it because it was now actually my pleasure to do that thing for you, to hold the door for you in the post office, to do that errand or whatever it is. It was my pleasure. You're welcome, my pleasure. But now we say a lot of no problem. So I threw it out there and all of a sudden I got all of these comments back. Wow, I say that. Wow, I didn't realize they say that. And I thought it would only be like a certain age group that would say, we say no problem. It was every age group and everybody was like, wow, I didn't realize I said that. I'm going to change it to you're welcome or my pleasure. So a friend of mine works in retail and he said, he always says no problem. And I said, here's an experiment. When you go into the store tomorrow, this may work, might not work, but give it a shot, see what happens. When people thank you, whether it's customers, fellow employees, staff, management, don't say no problem. Just say my pleasure. because, then they might think it was a problem in the first place for you to do it. And you're saying, no problem. It wasn't a problem. So just say my pleasure and see if there's any sort of change in mood or atmosphere response. And what happened when he went into the store the next day and he started saying my pleasure to the customers, staff, and management, all of a sudden, especially the customers, as they were saying thank you and he was responding my pleasure, they were thanking him for saying my pleasure. And all of a sudden there's like this whole change in a busy store where people can be, sometimes uptight and rushing and everything. It just tampered the mood, and everybody just all of a sudden, it lifted the spirit just by changing the wording to my pleasure, which I thought was really cool. The other thing that I noticed is sometimes people answer something, yeah, no, or no, yeah. Have you noticed that? I'm saying, wait, is it yes
Guilty.
or no? Is that 50-50? Yeah, no.
I do that probably on a every other day basis. I'm just like, yeah, no, or
Right.
no, yeah.
No,
like
yeah,
when I
it's
want to
like-
say yeah, I'm like, no, yeah, or like no, I'm like, yeah, no.
So standing at the altar, will you marry me?
No,
Yeah, no. No, yeah. Yeah, no.
See, I'm just gonna hypnotize her if she doesn't have a way out. So
And that's it. I love studying how we all communicate and the words we use and the things of that nature. And
No, it's very-
I hear a lot of people say yeah, no, or no, yeah. And they even
Yeah.
on the air with me, they'll go, no, yeah. I'm like, no or yeah? Because my next question is tied to whether that's a yes or no.
No, it's interesting because literally this past 2 weeks, I've just been thinking to myself about changing. I don't even remember what prompted me to do it or what triggered it, but I gave some sort of response, and I literally started thinking, what if I just start saying you're welcome? So I started saying you're welcome, and I just, myself personally, I just start feeling a little bit better, and it seemed like the tone of texts seemed like lighter.
Right. Isn't it amazing? With
And
words.
in addition, that kind of reminds me of what we talked about earlier. Why is English so complicated?
I know.
It also reminds me of what we talked about earlier, which is covert hypnosis. Like there are times where a lot of, and even what you were saying earlier about like studying the language. So you probably heard of, and I'm sure some people in the audience know of, neurolinguistic programming.
Yes.
The language of the mind and using words to accomplish certain things. And that's a huge part of covert hypnosis. And, when I was going through more or less the starving artist phase, I remember I got, I think I got like a free double bacon cheeseburger and a large fruit punch at the fair, utilizing covert hypnosis and language patterns and doing certain things with my body at the little food stand at the fair when I would say certain phrases at certain times, and then I walked away, and they looked at me and they just didn't charge me any money, and I just walked away. I was like, and I went to
it's amazing, right?
and I started eating, and my friends were like, "Oh, how much was it?" I was like, "I didn't pay for it." And they're like, "No, seriously, how much was it?" I was like, "I didn't pay for it." And I'll admit, and when I was working with that company, there was a pothead in our group, and he was very hungry. So I taught him the techniques really quick, just to prove anyone could do it, because he was high on life, let's say. So he went and did the techniques, and he came back with the exact same order I did. And he goes, and his face was super red. I was like, "Are you okay?" He goes, "It was free." And I was like, and right when that happened, everyone in the group was like, tell me. I was like, no. The idea isn't to screw over a business. I did it because I wasn't thinking it might actually work, and then it did. And they looked at me, and then they just let me go.
Yeah.
I did it with him to prove that I wasn't BSing.
Mm-hmm.
But
the
idea isn't to teach this to take advantage. It's just to teach that the psychology is real.
It's very important. Yeah, the wording can really tamper arguments down, and fires and floods and fist fights and other things that happen just by rewording certain things. And I tend to use humor too. I get that from my father. He always, I inject humor. I'm always I was told I operate from a higher consciousness, and I'm intuitive, and I'm a high level empath, all those things. So my ears are always, they're like a cat. I hear every single thing that's going on. So, and that could be good and bad, but sometimes the sounds I hear, I'd rather not hear that sound.
I know that feeling.
And usually it's not me creating that sound either.
I know that feeling very well.
It's like, can you shut that playing off, please? Could you stop doing that? But it's really interesting because I like to inject humor too, and I've noticed that also tamps things down, and it sort of lightens the load a little bit, breaks the ice. The other thing is, real quick, philosophy, and that's a whole other thing.
Oh, yeah.
You can come back and we can do a whole thing on that. Philosophy, I remember my philosophy teacher in college, and this was a quick experiment that he did, which none of the students liked it because they felt shafted when he did it. But I guess, we understood it, in the end. We're all at our desks waiting for the professor to come in, the philosophy professor to come in. And he comes in and he's got a stack of books in one hand and he's got a cup of coffee in the other hand. He walks and he goes, good afternoon, people, that type of thing. And but he says, good afternoon, professor. And he doesn't sit at his desk. He goes in front of his desk and he takes his stack of books and he just throws them all over the floor. And he takes his coffee and he throws that on the floor. And everybody's like, is the guy having a seizure? Did he just get divorced? What's going on? Did he just have a car accident? What happened? Did he just get a tax bill that's huge? What's going on in his life? He said, and now here's your assignment, people. I don't know what it's about calling us people. People, here's your assignment. You have to write an essay right now, and I want it done in 20 minutes, fully explaining why I just did what I did. Why did I walk in the room, throw the books on the floor? Why did I throw my coffee all over the floor? I want an explanation, I want it in essay form, and I want it in 20 minutes. Go, people. So everybody's writing all these different things. I mean, you see some people they were doing the Gettysburg Address. Some people were writing out the Bible. Some people just had 2 words on their page, whatever it is. So he had somebody collect the papers from the people and taking all the papers, bringing it to the front of the class, and he still standing in front of the desk with the books and the spilled coffee, and he starts looking at what everybody wrote, the essays, and he starts reading them aloud. This one, Judy says all this whole thing, like a 2-page essay, and Bob said this, and Marty had only 2 words, this, that, and the other, and he looks at all of them, and he goes, you're all wrong. And everybody's like, what do you mean? I mean, some people really thought it out and got really heavy and deep about what would possess him to do that. You know what the answer was?
I'm intrigued.
Because I felt like it.
I was literally thinking it was either that or because I wanted to see what you would write, to just give you something to write about.
Did I just hypnotize you?
I mean,
I was literally thinking, no, yes, it was basic. It was an experiment to see how involved everybody would get themselves wrapped up in what the explanation would be, when it was really just something that he said, I just felt like doing it. And nobody in the class, it was addressing the obvious, and everybody went beyond the obvious. He's a professor. This is college. He's not looking for the obvious. He's going to reject the obvious. He's going to want a well thought out, deep explanation and an essay. So they came up with all these cool reasons, but none of it matched what he wanted. What he wanted was just the obvious. I came in, I spilled the coffee, I did the thing with the books, and that's because that's what I felt like doing. So everybody
that.
Everybody was wrong.
I love that. Like, if I was ever a virtual professor, I feel like that would be me. Like, I watched
just don't make it a $7 Starbucks coffee. That gets costly.
I still owe a coffee shop. But no, I think about that sometimes, because I remember watching the show Lie to Me on Netflix, and one of the episodes, they're talking about expressions of people who are surprised, and the one student goes, "How do you know someone who's surprised versus faking it?" He immediately takes the coffee cup, chucks it at the wall, it shatters, and everyone near the wall just goes like this, and he goes, "That's genuine."
That's genuine, right?
And I was like, I want to be like that guy. I like being not normal.
Or obvious, just where people were predictable. You don't want to be predictable, right? Exactly. Boxed in or predictable, right? Because that gets a little, boring. That doesn't mean you don't like structure, you don't like format, but to have, I like structure and format, but I also like to know that there's a window I can open to let air in, and so I can breathe.
Creative structure.
Yeah, like you're creative, I'm creative. Creative people really, crave that. Absolutely.
I think it'd be like building a box, but it's only the corners and the things that hold the box together, but there's air flowing and opportunities coming in and out.
Marcia asks, can you hypnotize politicians?
I was actually this is a true story. When I got more serious into hypnosis and started performing, before I got my manager, I actually had a benefactor who was becoming a politician for a town I was near. And he started telling me his ideas, and I had already done like housework for him on the weekends because he was too busy to work on the house. So he was doing like, cash contract basically, on a weekly basis, like, clean this, clean that, mow the lawn, put the mulch down. And then there was one night where I was writing a script and he was in the kitchen. He goes, "Man, I'm really tired. I wish you could just like wake me up." And I really wish I do, because it would be really useful. But I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said like a really quick 15 to 30-second script. And to him, it just sounded like I was talking to him. Yeah. And then I just stopped talking. I kept typing and I waited. And the next thing I hear is, "Holy." And then I just turn and he's like, "I feel super pumped right now." He's like, "What did you do?" And I just go, "That worked?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he got like another 2 or 3 hours of work done within the next hour of that. And then after that experience, he realized that, he considered me a gifted individual or whatever. And months later, he said, "Hey, I'm going to be running for office. Here are my ideals. Here are my things I want to do." He's like, "I would like to pay you to be my NLP consultant. Teach me how to use certain words, how to convey my message, my this, my that." And I knew what he had, and I knew what he could pay me. And I was immediately like, "Oh my God, my first real cool job like this."
Yeah.
That was also one of the first times in my professional career that I realized there's certain things money can't buy.
Definitely.
Because when he started telling me what he wanted to do, the changes he wanted to make, and where he wanted to lead the city, there were certain things that made me very uncomfortable. Now, again, I avoid politics. I've never really been huge into politics, but when I was hearing him, some of the things I thought were okay. I was like, okay, maybe. But a lot of it, I just couldn't get on board with. And there were certain things that I completely disagreed with, but I didn't know how to say, I didn't want to like be rude about it. So despite the pay and the offer and everything, and he's like, you can work whenever you want. And he's giving me all this freedom. It was the first time I had a big opportunity that I turned down, because I just said, I think I said something along the lines of, "I don't think this is right for me and I have to focus on something else," which was my nice way of saying, I can't work for you specifically.
Right. Yeah. You felt that vibe, which was probably a very good call, because you knew it wasn't going to be the right thing for you. And do you feel you're very intuitive?
I am now, just because I realize that I'm at least somewhat empathic. And I think part of empathy, in my mind, just from my studying, I think honestly part of empathy comes from, a percentage of it at least comes from being able to subconsciously read people's body language and language patterns.
Right.
So I think in that sense, I can be. And
can you tell when people are lying? Like, I mean, if there was a situation where, they brought you in and they said, "Can you tell us if this person who we think did this is lying about it?" Is there certain clues in their facial reactions and little twicks and little, twitches and whatever that give it away, and different things that you can recognize?
There can be. Like, for example, you're doing a defensive potty posture, but I don't think you're being defensive or holding guard or anything or disliking me. That's just how you feel comfortable right now. But, and this is something there was a police officer that the one I escaped from the handcuffs from, he actually gave me a book years ago called The Definitive Book of Body Language. And one of my favorite parts of the book was context. And it basically said, you can't take anything from this book, see one person doing one thing, automatically assume they're in this thing, they're in this mood or in this, situation, consciously or subconsciously, because everything has to be piled together to give you a general idea of what they're going through emotionally or psychologically. So with that said, I found, to answer your question directly, it's easier when they don't know it's happening. Because when people realize they're being read, it's a lot like saying, I'm going to hypnotize you. If they realize I'm a hypnotist and they've never met me before and they know I'm hypnotizing them, then they get kind of creeped out. And then they either start becoming defensive, or they start putting up their mental blocks, or they start closing their eyes because they think I can just look at them and hypnotize them. They start doing all this crazy stuff because they are now consciously aware I'm trying to do this thing. If I don't tell them I'm going to hypnotize them, it's usually easier to do a covert thing with them, in the same sense of lying. It's usually easier to catch someone when they're comfortable because they don't feel like they're being read, because in their mind it's a form of judgment, and people don't like being judged. People don't like being read all the time. I was just with some people about 2 weeks ago, and one of them was saying that they had a family member who was a therapist, and she was always giving family therapy that was unwanted during family get-togethers, and she was trying to give everyone therapy when no one wanted it, and it made them kind of steer away. So I found out the easiest way to do it is just to kind of build rapport, make someone feel connected and comfortable with you, and then let it go from there. And usually that's, I think, what a lot of authorities do too, interrogation sometimes, is they'll try to build some sense of rapport and comfortability so people feel comfortable, and then they can get a baseline for how do you sound, how fast do you talk, what tone do you use, what's your body language. And then from there, they might have someone outside the room looking in, or through a camera or whatnot, being kind of a outside perspective on top of the inside perspective to see, has their base changed? Has their body language changed? Has their tone, speed, volume changed? And so if you kind of understand how to do all that, which is all a lot of information to throw into one really quick response, I have done it. I've caught friends in lies. They don't always like that. So I've learned to read people, but more often than not, I don't call people out on it anymore unless it's like a dire situation. Usually I just kind of let it go, and I'll nonchalantly bring it up later in a way that doesn't make them feel attacked. It'll be more of a question of, hey, I remember this thing you said. I'm going through this thing right now. Question about this thing you said. And then usually at that point I can tell, because they don't know I was reading them, whether or not they were lying. It's kind of more of a long game answer.
Right. No, but true. Very effective. Bernadette says she's empathetic as well, and it can be draining at times. I get that. I know what she's talking about. My sister's the same way. I see my family is very much like that. They tend to be empathetic and always running to everybody else's aid and making sure everybody else, is that they're good, that everybody has good health and they're happy and they have all their needs, and it can be draining at times when you're empathetic because you're always feeling things. You're not shutting things off as much. You find that to be the case, being an empath?
Yeah, which is funny because until this show, I never really talk about myself as an empath. But yeah, I make a lot of ridiculous jokes about why I'm single. But one of the things that honestly I very deeply, genuinely enjoy about not being in like a relationship, at least at the moment, other than the fact that women are scared I'm going to mind control them, is there's a lot of time for me to recharge because I am such a natural introvert. And like I said, this is going to be the most I talk all night. And I'm not going to be necessarily drained because I really like your energy. And I've really liked the audience, and I've enjoyed performing. I've enjoyed talking. We've already talked about way more than I thought we were going to, but it's stuff that I actually like talking about that I don't get to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So in a sense, this is kind of leveling out my energy that I would normally lose from talking or interacting for this long. But yeah, being single and being introvert gives me a lot of time to recharge, and that's definitely something I need. So even when I get into relationships, I'm like, hey, yeah, can we just like not talk, or like can we not be in each other's presence for 3 days?
Yeah, no, I get that too, because there's even with me, there's often times when I'm involved in some major thing that requires me to really be out there in front and doing it, whether it's entertaining or just there's a lot of people involved and all of the senses of joy and everything. Just everything is heightened, heightened, heightened. Like for me, I've always said, and it's probably still true, one of my least favorite days on the planet has always been the day after Christmas. Even as a kid, I never liked December 26th, only because in our house with the family and all the relatives, Christmas always built up to this extraordinary thing on the day of, with the tree and the lights and the music and all the relatives and the cousins and the aunts and uncles and the 5 different kinds of cookies and the turkey and the gifts and the love and the music filling the house and God, and like it's hitting on everything. The love, the family, the God, the gifts, the toys, the color, the TV specials, the music on the radio, the build up to it from Thanksgiving on. And all the love and the joy, and everybody's friendlier and happier, at least it seems that way when you're a kid. All these fabulous things, la 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 la, and then boom, the next day, it's like it's now the day after Christmas. It's not Christmas Day where all of this incredible energy is going on and everybody's like operating on this high that you talk about. Everybody's happy and joyful and all of this. And the next day, and not always exactly the next day, because you still lead up to New Year's Eve and everything, but just that whole thing, like all the radio stations stop playing the music, and it just it's always been, for me, when I'm involved in things that are that like big and monumental and emotional and you're just really in touch with it. I need that next day to reflect on what just went on, to relive it, to re-feel it again, and to, I'll be quieter the next day. And sometimes people will say, "Are you okay? Is there something wrong? Did I do something?" I'm like, no, you're perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong. I'm just, and there's nothing that I can think of right now that conversationally, even though I'm a conversationalist, I enjoy being a conversationalist as much as I like being a listener. I like to sometimes be at a gathering where I'm the host because I like to create atmosphere and be the host. But there's a lot of times I also like to observe and soak in what is happening.
That sounds so nice.
I really like to do that. And then I like to sometimes and I probably got to stop doing that. One thing is, like, if we go to a party, a gathering or whatever, we'll get in the car and I'll want to reassess what we just did, the party we just came from. Do you think I should have talked a little bit more to Bob? Did you hear what Judy said? What do you think about what Judy said? Do you think we spent enough time with the Feldmans over there or whatever? And, they'd be like, "We're going home," or, the party's done, the party's over, next. And I'm like, well, I'm not always next. You know what I mean? I don't always go next. Sometimes I like to stop and smell the coffee. You know what I mean? Stop and if we're going to do it, if we're going to go to an event, or if we're going to create something, if we're going to make magic, I like to pause after we do that to relish in what we just experienced, not just immediately go to the next. Because if all we're doing in our life is going to the next, eventually the next ends and we're done. I like to appreciate the things that we just did a little bit. So have a little bit of a breather in between the next and the next and the next.
Absolutely. I mean, that's something that I've realized the older I got, and I appreciate taking time to. I never got it when I was younger. I was like, why do you need to reflect? Just go. But then again, also realizing in my 20s, I'm undiagnosed ADHD, which I'll probably get diagnosed in the next few months. And I only say that because everyone that is in my life that is diagnosed with it and medicated for it says I have it. And my mom's like, oh my God, it makes sense. And then when we looked into it, is the older I get, I do enjoy, and I find myself just like looking back on it for at least a day or two. But that said, I actually want to interject myself and say, can we all just take one moment? Because I talked with Jim before the show and told him that I was considering doing a regular podcast on top of the regular YouTube stuff I did, which I cross-promote on other platforms. Jim does this every stinking day and just told us he likes to take time, but he does this every single day for you guys for free. Can we give Jim some love or hearts or appreciation in the comments? Because like I told him, I'm going to say it again, that's insane. I thought about doing it recently. I realized that's not who I am. I can't do that. So the fact that Jim's doing it, I'm going to say it, you're a badass. And I think what you do is badass because it's not what I can do, but I appreciate individuals like yourself giving this opportunity to individuals like myself and then doing so in the way that you're doing for everyone that's listening and watching. Like, that's incredible. And to me, that's insane because I know that's not who I am and I couldn't do it. So all of the energy and props your way, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You read that script beautifully.
Now, where's my $50?
That's a 50. That's exactly. Yeah. I'll refill that glass, whatever's in it, that mug, the next time I see you. That endless mug.
We'll call it water.
3 hours and it's just still in there.
True story. I freaked out as you were giving my introduction because I knew I was okay. So I was actually really anxious before we started as you were starting to like, this is what's going on. This is what's going to come up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to freak out. We're going to be talking for hours because I saw the Andrew Main show and I was like, literally, if I'm performing, I get a sore throat. Here, let me backtrack to everyone who's like, oh yeah, he says he's introverted. No. Let me give you the scale of introverted I am. I'm so naturally introverted that if this were a show, and it's probably going to happen to some degree after we're done here with this show, if this were a live performance show, I would have a sore throat within 1 to 2 hours of stop talking because I'm so naturally introverted. I do not talk on a regular, consistent basis every single day, that something like this will literally give me a physical sore throat afterward. And that was all that was in my mind for like the first few minutes you were getting ready to do everything. I was like, okay, I don't know when he's going to introduce me, but I'm really afraid not to have water because my mouth is going to get dry. I'm going to choke. I'm going to die. Everyone's going to be like, what the heck happened to the hypnotist? And like all this is going through my mind. And then like I realized you read a really big comment of someone who had just come in. And I was like, go. And I sprinted to the kitchen, filled the glass with water, came back and I was like, safe.
I saw that because we could see each other, the little squares on the bottom, and the viewers can't see it. And they said he's scooting off to get something. It's either Kaopeptate, milk of magnesia, Pepto-Bismol, or Tums. All of the above. Look what you started here. Look at all this levity. You've wound all of the levities up here.
You deserve it. Like I said, this is incredible. To me, it's insane. I legitimately, genuinely don't believe I could do this. And I am personally okay with the fact that I can't do this, but the fact that someone like you is pulling it off on an every single day basis and sometimes twice a day. When you said twice a day, I about died inside because I knew that there's no way I could do this at this scale the way you're doing it. And that's why when I checked your YouTube channel, because like I said, YouTube is my original home and it's where I just told my manager, I was like, soon I'm going to be paying my manager to take care of all my other social media, because I'd rather just stick to what I started with, which is YouTube. And I said, I don't mind being on YouTube, but I like not being addicted and always on social media. I was like, that's your forte. You're the marketing. You're the manager. You're the PR guy. I was like, I'm the entertainer. I'm just here to upload and entertain. Like, it's so consuming. And the fact that you do the research, you do the communication, you do the uploading, you do the presenting, you do the talking, you do the hosting, and you do it every day is like, dude, you're amazing.
Appreciate that. I also do all the producing and technical directing during the show live.
Exactly.
You know what Katie says? I would be dead if I did what he did.
That's how I feel too.
That is funny. That would be dead. And the thing is, too, I'm standing, not sitting. That's the other thing.
Yeah, dude, you just make me feel like like you're another level of adult. You're okay. Oh, thank you. I'm not I'm not great at taking compliments.
We'll split that 50-50.
Okay, yeah. I'm completely fine with that. That's fine.
Who knows? That is fun. That mug. I want that assistant. I want that midget. Can you loan that midget out, Stevie? Steve, come over
Hey!
here, Steve. His mug's empty.
Actually, I have either one good gulp or 2 sips left.
That's like, I mean, it's we can't see what it's on, but it's got to be some sort of a system where it's just refilling itself. It's amazing. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Say my pleasure. My pleasure.
There you go.
I used to do a lot of what you did. Now
No, it's
the
called
word is called retire.
Well, I used to do radio. Well, I was on iHeartRadio too, and my show was 5 hours live on Saturdays, and then 5 hours live again on Sundays. And I was the host and the producer the whole time, and it was so I'm used to talking and everything. And it's but what happens is one of two things happen after, especially doing a show like this, because when we started this show 22 weeks ago, as a side to my professional work in TV and radio, the goal was to do a neat 1 hour show, 1 hour, good, open, middle, end. And then we just started getting into this kinds of scenarios where the guests were feeling so comfortable, and they were, many of them opening up about their lives and sharing different nuances and essences of who they are. Many of them saying, that they wanted to share whatever they're sharing for years. Many of them saying they were a little depressed because some of them perform, and because they don't have the energy of a crowd or an audience, they feel lifted by coming on here, which I guess, is a beautiful thing to hear. So it doesn't, so after this, when we wrap up, I'll be wired, or I won't be able to go to bed right away. Most people say, you must be wiped out, you're going to collapse. I'm like, no. Like you, feeding off the high, the energy. I feed off the energy of other people, and I like to give it back. So, it's the high, and it takes a while to come down from that.
Yeah, no, I'll probably honestly Uber for at least 2 or 3 hours after this, because I do that I do that because it's one of those jobs where I can just go in and out whenever I want, and it's easy, and I'm mainly just dealing with a bunch of drunk college kids, and so I look like I'm their age, so it's easy to relate. Plus, whenever I tell them, oh yeah, I just hypnotized your campus oral, I was on a talk show today, they always look me up, so it's free publicity right there.
Yes.
And John, you have been fantastic. Thank you.
Yes. All these comments have been coming in,
but I know that I'll probably Uber around, talk with some people, because this is like I did do some performing, but again, you've also been talking with me about things that the average person doesn't bring up in conversation with me that I like. Like you brought up philosophy. I haven't had anyone bring up philosophy in weeks minimum, and like your philosophy, and my brain went, oh. Okay, let me get my time. All right, let's go.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see certain nuances is where you like the way the conversation was going in the directions. It's like hitting certain buttons that you are in tune with.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. I think we're very kindred spirits in a lot of different ways as far as how we think about a lot of different things. So it's coming out in a natural, authentic conversation, which has an entertainment value to it as well, being a show, but is so natural and flowing and authentic that it's also benefiting viewers who are watching, and viewers who are soaking it up and learning different things about themselves and about you, of course, and even about me, which I think it's like a fabulous tennis match, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue. You said touching on and helping people understand themselves is to go back to the one thing that I haven't really demonstrated or helped people understand about themselves. We've talked about psychology and philosophy and this and that and hypnosis and magic mentalism, and I've done some magic and I've done some mentalism, but let's tap into something that we actually talked about that I think they would appreciate for everyone who's still here.
And there's a lot of them that are.
Right.
Wow.
And I think they would like the opportunity. So I'm going to give everyone the opportunity right now while they're watching, listening. And I'm going to give the precautions first and foremost. It's not real like hypnosis, like stage hypnosis or anything, just because we are live on air. I can't see you, and that creates a liability that I want to make sure everyone's safe. So we're going to do psychological tests. But if you're going to do this test and you're watching or listening to this, my main request is for everyone watching and listening, don't be operating machinery of any kind. Don't be driving. Thank you, Francis. Um,
And if you're in the middle of making love, stop right now.
yeah. And lay on your backs and put your arms up. That will make sense. I swear to God, in a minute. That's gonna. By the way, I wasn't sure what kind of language or things to say on this, so the fact that you said that makes me feel way better.
I always like to go like right there and
Yeah.
then, but not, I don't, the water doesn't go over the railing.
Right.
You know, like this, if you ever watched the really funny game show that actually goes back to the 70s, Match Game, where everything was a double entendre, everything was like, had double meanings and stuff like that. I just love that kind of wording sometimes. Like, you didn't necessarily say that yet.
Right. Insinuate it. But also, if you're afraid of hypnosis, that's fine. This isn't actually going to hypnotize you or anything. But anything that I mentioned beforehand, if you're doing those things, please do hold or stop for a bit. Although during lovemaking, that might be very interesting. Okay, anyway, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do at least 2 different things. Now, a lot of people know about like magnetic fingers. Like, this is a very classic thing to do. Here's my issue with this. And I taught this on HypnoKick months ago. This is physiological. This isn't actually a psychological hypnosis test because all your other fingers and thumbs are tightly interlaced. And so when you're spreading your fingers apart, this isn't magnetic fingers. This is called tendon stretching. You're stretching yourself. So they're stressed because they're being stretched, which makes them naturally want to come together. They're not magnetized. That's not imagination. Real imagination was what I'm going to do right now. If you have the opportunity to, again, you're not operating machinery, driving a vehicle, doing anything important, you're just sitting or laying down somewhere, preferably sitting. Although you could do this if you're laying too. Just put your arms straight out in front of you. Straight out in front of you so your elbows are locked out. And make sure that your hands are, let's say, about a foot apart, 12 inches apart. And with your hands about a foot, 12 inches apart, and again, only do this if you're sitting or laying down comfortably in an undisturbed area and you don't have to do anything important. With your hands about a foot apart and your arms locked out in front of you, close your eyes and just listen to the sound of my voice. Because in a moment, I'm going to start snapping my fingers. When I start snapping my fingers, you're going to allow yourself to re-engage into your childhood. Allow yourself to re-engage into the creative imagination that you used growing up to manifest and create alternate realities for yourself to help you enjoy life or escape hardship. Tap into that right now. And with every snap of my fingers, with every breath you breathe, with every passing moment, and every sound you hear, imagine that the center of each of your palms of your hands are like the world's smallest but most powerful magnets. With every snap of my fingers, with every breath you breathe, with every word I say, in every passing moment, that magnetization increases. It becomes 2 times stronger, 3 times stronger, 4, 5 times stronger. Now give that connection, give that magnetization some sort of color, whatever your favorite color is. Imagine a neon color between your hands, bringing them closer and closer with every snap, with every word. With your eyes closed, just imagine and tune into, really create that color. And the brighter and more vivid that color becomes, the more powerful that magnetism becomes, the closer your hands get. Some of you might feel it, some of you might have your hands coming closer, but not even realize it. So right now, freeze right now. Very slowly, open your eyes, keeping your arms and hands in place. And then tell us in the comments if your hands moved any closer together. Because the interesting thing about this is, and the demonstration is over, now you're just going to tell us your results, is some people might not experience anything. That maybe they haven't engaged in their imagination in a very long time. Maybe they find it hard. That's okay. That's normal. A percentage of people will experience that. An interesting percentage of people might think that nothing happened, and they open their eyes and realize their hands actually came 1, 2, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 inches closer, or maybe touched. And then there are others who will have been so in tune and physically conscious of themselves that they will actually have felt their hands and arms come closer and closer together and physically touched. So it's interesting. We already have a mixture of yes, no, yes, of course they get closer, real hypnotic D. Instructions unclear. My girlfriend's hands moved to my wallet. And this is
What
why
a crowd! What a crowd!
this
I
is
tell
why
ya.
me and Drew are friends.
That is funny. Some
Burn
say yes,
death.
some say no. Interesting. I felt it happening. They moved very little, maybe about half an inch. That's Kathy Short. Marsha Lyon said about 4 to 6 inches.
Interesting. And keep
Yeah.
in mind that even though this is me live with
Yeah,
you,
right.
I'm not one-on-one. So again, it's kind of like a YouTube video. It's a very generic and very
Yeah.
quick-paced demonstration that was only about a minute, minute and a half long. So naturally speaking, no, not everyone, again, will statistically get it. But see how many people in the comments are saying it moved half an inch or it moved several inches or they came all the way together. There are some people who are very naturally in tune with their creative mind.
Right.
And there are others who maybe they could have gotten there if I went a little bit longer or was more descriptive with
Yeah.
the suggestion. There's a lot of different factors, and that's why I think people think they can't get hypnotized, is because a hypnotist spends a certain amount of time that they're comfortable with or used to with a certain approach that they're used to. And if it doesn't work on people, then they think, oh, well, I can't be hypnotized. Well, no, it just means it might not be the right hypnotist or approach for you. Please don't walk away believing that you can't be hypnotized and being discouraged. It's kind of like a relationship.
Yeah.
I love using this example. Just because that hypnotist didn't work doesn't mean there isn't one that won't.
Austin Field says, my hands did move a little closer. My palms felt a little chill.
Yeah, that's interesting because especially women during comedy hypnosis shows will often say that they feel chilly or cold. So that's kind of interesting.
For a guy, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Katie said hers came right together.
She's a somnambulist. I know her.
My hands
Hands
touched
touch
very quick,
quickly. She's also a somnambulist.
about half the distance.
Interesting.
I think it's interesting that Marsha can actually say 4 to 6 inches, like the specifics of, the inches. Mine came closer together too. I felt it as
Good.
well. Yeah. Really cool stuff, huh?
And here's the thing. The hypnotists that do these things, that's the suggestibility test to show us how naturally in tune with your creative mind you are, how
Right.
focused you are with what we as the hypnotists are saying, because both of those things through that test are going to physically demonstrate for us how in tune you are with everything overall and whether or not we should put you on stage for the actual show.
Right, exactly. Christine says, mine was warm, not cool. I think we must believe in it and be in tune as well. Jennifer in Colorado says, yes, halfway.
Interesting.
Francis says, thought I felt they were moving a tiny bit, but my arms started to fall. That's my injury.
Yeah,
Cannot
okay.
hold down up too long.
That's
Claudia,
fair, yeah.
Missouri says, mine were close to touching. Really interesting. Really amazing.
And I know usually when I deal with the older audiences as well that I'll usually I don't do those anymore. The suggestibility test I use now for the beginning of my actual stage shows is for all ages because yes, absolutely, there have been a multitude of different men and women who are older than me who obviously because of an injury or even if it's not because of an injury, just because of age or arthritis or joint problems or what have you, it might be hard to hold up your hand or arms longer than others or even go along with that for whatever reason, and that's completely normal. So what I did, part of the New Age hypnosis tour yet again, was I completely removed anything that would strain people's muscles in that way. And hold on, hard for me to fully focus. I was afraid my husband would come in and start laughing at me. So the funny and ironic thing about that is hypnosis, especially with comedy stage hypnosis, once you get down, like really down deep into it, it actually removes all that inhibition because, and here's another reason I love hypnosis is because when you tap into yourself, especially with hypnosis or hypnotherapy, it strips away the inhibitions that we have. And the only reason we have inhibitions is because we're afraid of what other people are going to think, say, or do as a result of what we think or say or do because we're afraid to be judged.
Right.
I think we've all been hypnotized because it feels like it's been 4 hours.
Because it doesn't, yeah. So it makes it feel
Oh,
like
it doesn't?
it's less.
Oh,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
but I mean, so back to my main point is like the test I use now is I basically tell everyone that they're stuck to their chair, and that's half of it. There's another part of the process, but that way, literally anyone of any age can get hypnotized. And if they can't get out of their chair, which is a normal thing we should all be able to do as adults, then that tells me that logically it makes no sense. But that means hypnotically that they're very in tune, that I'm the right hypnotist, that's the right approach. They're in the zone, and I'm probably going to end up hypnotizing them.
Really amazing.
Can arm be rested? Yeah. It can be on an armrest to rest the arm, but not for this specific thing, I don't think. I've never had someone try that. It might work. I mean, I just thought of something right when you asked off the top of my head that might help it work, but it's usually most effective doing it the way that it was described.
This was, I tell you, absolutely a spectacular episode. My friend and everybody, they're still here from all around the world watching on all the platforms right now. And
Go to bed, people.
yeah, they just love it. They love it. None of us are good goodbye people. I just want to let everybody know if you missed the episode, it's available right there on YouTube for you at Jim Masters TV. We hope you subscribe to the channel too. Comments are still pouring in. Everybody loved it. That's really cool. I mean, there's been just a flow of really lots of levity tonight. We really appreciate it. And this was great, my friend. And I hope you enjoyed your time and it met all the expectations you might have had. And I certainly hope you enjoyed your time with me as much as I have with you.
Yeah, no, like I said, I was super anxious when I first got here, and I grabbed an endless cup of water. And
wait, you said yeah, no. Can we just leave it at yeah?
Yeah.
That you enjoyed it.
No, yeah. No,
yeah. Did you enjoy it, John? Yeah, no.
Yeah. You're welcome. Where do we go from here?
My pleasure.
My
This was
pleasure.
my pleasure.
My pleasure.
No problem.
No problem. It's all good in the hood.
No worries.
It's aight.
That is fun. That is funny. Thank you for another
No, thank
awesome
you for
guest.
communicating with my manager and willing to have me on. I've never done a show for this long, but it was easier because of, like I said, your vibe, the community, how you set it up, and it literally went from, to me, it felt like it went from like a typical kind of like podcast type of interview to literally just a conversation that a bunch of people are just tuning into because they want to.
Right, right. And that's what we do. This is fashioned like with my work in television and radio, I fashion this really as like a TV talk show. And, like Dick Cavett or some of the people that have done talk shows that are the legends, bringing back the lost art of conversation with entertainment and all the other fun stuff we throw in during our shows, because every show is something different, but just bringing in that lost art of conversation. And bravo, we thank you very much. You're welcome back anytime. This was amazing, John and Jim.
Someone did mention earlier, so I want to kind of point them out because I know they would love for you to do this. This was like a half hour, an hour ago. Someone said that you have to show me, I think it's your relax sign before I leave.
Yes, we have that. I could listen to this for a long time. Captivating. That is really awesome.
Well, I have a YouTube channel. You can listen to all of it. Relax. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the very first part of hypnosis.
That's how I usually show this at the end of every show, telling everybody to relax, breathe from the diaphragm, love one another, take care of yourself as much as take care of everybody else. Not every day is going to be perfect, but try to relax and try to, savor the fabulous moments in life and the true blessings and joys in life. So this is something we got while we were on vacation in Newport, Rhode Island, and it's like an old 1920s or 30s beach scene. Sort of, you can see the little kids in there on the beach in Rhode Island there. And we just saw it, and this was something that was in the house. A lot of the things that are on set here are from the house. So I tell people, if I ever rename the Jim Masters Show Live, we're just going to call it Off the Wall, because a lot of the things here on set are from the walls of the house.
So I like how someone just popped in and said, you can't look at the sign because you said that means sleep. You have to head out.
That is funny. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Please come back. Yeah, that's Francis. John, you can't look at that sign because you said that means sleep. Yeah, you have to head out. That's funny.
I forecast that you two would be talking for hours. My vision came true.
You were right. You were right. I knew that. Anyway,
that is my manager, to everyone that doesn't know. And I wasn't expecting it to be this long, and I also have I actually have a podcast to do in about 14 hours from now. I'm not sure how much energy I'm going to have.
I was going to say, you have time to rest up. 14 hours? No,
I don't know, because like I said, I'm still enjoying this, and like now I'm experiencing the not wanting to leave despite how many hours it's been going on. I'm still going to go out and work a little bit. So
that's what everybody says. This has been a great interview. Thanks for being on the show, John. You're funny and entertaining.
Thank you, Claudia. Live limitless, Katie. Thank you. That is, I know that Emily said in the chat she wants me to end with live limitless. All my followers know that that's a company motto I try to live by. Like I said, we all live with limits. We all have inhibitions. Like the one woman said she was afraid of her husband coming in and making fun of her. To overcome our inhibitions, overcome our personal limits and hurdles, so that way we can finally begin to achieve the milestones toward the ultimate goal and or lifestyle that we have been wanting to live or achieve for some time. And the only way to do that is to live limitless.
Absolutely. Beautifully said, my friend, and with lots of levity, as we say here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Light, love, levity, and levity. This was really a pleasure and an honor to have you with us here on the show. You're welcome back anytime, my friend. And again, I hope it truly met your expectations and you enjoyed this whole experience with
Absolutely.
me and the levities as much as we certainly did.
But for the record, and with all due respect, it was my pleasure.
You're very welcome. Now you and I will both relax. And breathe. That's it. All right, my friend. This was really terrific, and I toast you with whatever you have left in there, which is probably not much. I have a little bit left in here.
That's it. Hardly any left in here.
Toast. Cheers. Cool. You take care, and have a good weekend coming up. And this was awesome.
There we go.
That's it.
Lasted 4 hours. That's the longest it's ever lasted.
I tell you, it is a refill. Steve, he needs a refill pronto. All right, John, you take care. Thanks for being with us on the show. Again, really, it was a lot of cool, a lot of fun, and terrific conversation. And we went into a lot of different myriad of avenues there, including Wilmington Avenue.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
That's it. It was awesome.
But thank you for wanting me to begin with, and for everyone, young and old alike, to open their minds to not only listening, but actually willing to do the demonstration. Moments ago, not everyone's willing to open their minds, learn about themselves, and so I'm always more than happy to have situations like this where everyone comes together and is actually open-minded enough to accept it and explore themselves and just have me as a guide.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good stuff, my friend. Have a good night, all right? You take care.
You as well. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. We'll see you again soon, right here. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Wasn't that cool, everybody? Absolutely. And thanks for these great comments. Wonderful to meet you, John. Good night, John. Thanks so much for your time and sharing all your knowledge. You're amazing. Good night, John and Jim. Cheers. Stay safe and stay well. We appreciate that. You can go to his website, John WAYES. That's WAYES.com to learn more. And good night and all good company, everyone. Jim, another great show. Thank you. Good night. God bless. Stay safe. Stay well. You as well. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I just want to let you know we've got an amazing guest tomorrow as well. Brilliant singer and performer. This is the wonderful Alice in England. She's here tomorrow. That's Friday. Then we have the extraordinary Clea Blackhurst. She's here on Saturday. That's going to be amazing. Then on Sunday, live from Sweden, direct. This is exclusively on our YouTube channel. Singer, musician, and songwriter John Magnusson is going to be live from Sweden. The show is on 1 p.m. Eastern. That's 10 a.m. Pacific. That's this Sunday on our YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV. So make sure you check that out as well. And again, we thank our very special guest. That's a cool picture to end with, huh? The fantastic John WAYES. And again, check out his website and learn more. And of course, social media. Coming up in coming weeks, Melissa Manchester will be here. George Hutton's going to be here. Glenn Scarpelli, who was one of the stars of One Day at a Time on CBS, is going to be joining us in just a couple weeks as well. George Hutton, of course, live and direct from Ireland, Irish lyric tenor, singer, songwriter. Everybody's excited about that. And so am I. All right, gang, don't forget to smile, as we always say. And share the levity wherever you go or whenever you can. Find your Zen place. Living along the coast here all my life. I love the ocean. That's my Zen place, as well as with family and friends, my work, my career, cycling, tennis, creative writing. So find your Zen place. Mine's the ocean. And you guys have a terrific night. We'll be back 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. We also thank our dear friends at LMG, Life and Music Group, for all their love and kindness and support of our show as well. We appreciate and value them as well. And we value and appreciate you all the time. And all your characters say goodnight. George and Gilligan from Gilligan's Island. And of course, you guys love Jeannie. Jeannie's here. She says goodnight. Silver, who I got on that TV shoot in Switzerland, says goodnight as well. And last but not least, Jimmy says goodnight to you guys as well. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, an extraordinary show. Thanks to John WAYES for being with us. Thanks to all of you for being with us here on the Jim Masters Show Live. You guys have a good night. We love having you here. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.